She was running for her life when a stranger stepped out of the dark and saved her. Then he dragged her home, kicked in her father's door, and took her. As payment, one bite to her neck. No warning, no choice, no escape. She belonged to a man she had never met. And the worst part? He was only the beginning. Welcome to Enchanted Secrets Publishing. Where are you watching from? Drop your city below. Subscribe, new stories every week. Chapter 1. It was a cold night, even for a wolf like me. The frigid air whipped my hair in every direction. I constantly had to pull it away from my face just so I could continue to squint through the darkness. I never should have gotten all dressed up. I was already regretting letting my best friend, Siren, convince me to wear these heels. I ripped them off my feet and tucked them under my arm. The house was a good 2 blocks behind me, and I was alone and a little scared. I had been casually sipping my non-alcoholic drink when a big crash erupted and wolves began to drop as if struck by lightning. My older brother practically tossed me out of our home and told me to run. I could barely process anything that was happening. Today was supposed to be a good day. My younger sister was supposed to shift for the first time, and hopefully a suitable male suitor would take joy in her company and claim her as his. There are no destined mates in our world. It is not by fate, but by attraction and love that you choose to bear the mark of a wolf. It was tradition to invite different packs to this celebration to increase the likelihood that someone would claim you. For males, nearby packs often sent unmated females to possibly be chosen. It had been 3 years since my first transformation, and I had yet to be claimed. I had a few offers, but shut them down almost immediately. Call me a dreamer or an idealist, but I wanted something passionate and genuine. Someone who would care for me and love me deeply. I would wait until I found the right person. I heard a twig snap behind me and turned quickly, only to see pure darkness. The dark clouds were gathering, blocking the moonlight entirely. I turned back around and began to run for my life. I was not going to be one of those foolish people who calls out into the dark. That was plain reckless. I pushed myself to run faster, harder. I could hear my heart pounding along with the sound of heavy footsteps behind me. I desperately wanted to wake up in my room safe and sound. But that was only hope. I screamed in fright and frustration as 2 large arms locked around my waist, lifting me off my feet and sending my shoes flying across the cold cement. This was not a nightmare. It was really happening. I thrashed and kicked, trying my best to loosen this stranger's grip. I screamed again in disgust and alarm as his hands grabbed at me aggressively. He pulled me into the nearby trees, concealing us from the street. He pinned me to the ground and began reaching for my dress. As his intentions became clearer, I became more frantic. I tried as hard as I could to get him off me, but it was no use. He was far too strong. Tears ran down my cheeks when the realization hit me. My strength was no match for his. I continued to fight as best I could, refusing to go down without a battle. I brought forth my claws and scratched at him, growling and thrashing. My claws tore at the flesh on his face, causing him to loosen his grip just enough. I pried his hands off me, breaking his index finger in the process. A crack of thunder resounded as I kneed him hard and tried to crawl away. He dug his claws into my ankles and dragged me back. He pressed me down into the dirt, and I fought harder still, clawing toward his neck. I screamed, hoping someone passing by would hear me. Just as he moved toward my neck, he was gone. He hovered above me in a strange, suspended position, being held up by his neck by someone I could not see. I scrambled backward in terror. His neck was wrenched and his body went limp, falling into the mud I was now drenched in. A large man stepped forward. I scrambled to my feet, ready to run again. "What is your name?" He took an advancing step toward me, and my eyes began to make out his features. He had a sharp jawline and dark hair, too light to be black, too dark to be brown. His eyes glowed a deep blue that was almost hypnotic. I was nearly mesmerized by the authority and presence he radiated. Nearly. "Are you mute?" he said, taking another step forward. I stood stock still. "Octavia." I blurted the name out. I balled my hands into fists, irritated at the way he was using his alpha authority on me. Did he not know I was the daughter of Octavius, Alpha of the Snow Moon Pack, a man well respected for his wisdom, strength, and ability to maintain peace and alliances? Snow Moon. The man whispered to himself before stalking over and grabbing my upper arm, dragging me out of the forest. Hey, let go of me. I yanked my arm free, and he sent a low growl in my direction. I was a little surprised at his reaction, but not entirely, since he seemed like a genuine hothead. I'm taking you back to your father. Relax. He gritted through clenched teeth. I crossed my arms skeptically. For all I knew, I had just escaped one dangerous man only to be standing beside another. How do you know my father? I raised a quizzical eyebrow. He let out a sigh of frustration, but simply didn't answer, turning and walking toward a set of headlights visible through the rain. The lack of moonlight made everything worse. Get in the truck. He yelled over to me as he climbed into the driver's side of a large vehicle. I glanced at my surroundings and then at the truck. I didn't want to be stuck alone in this rain. If I walked home, it would take over 30 minutes. And he had, after all, just saved me from being forcefully marked. Why would he protect me only to harm me afterward? I rolled my eyes and trudged over to the vehicle. I pulled the passenger door open. The interior light came on, and I got a full view of him. He was striking. His wet hair was tousled in every direction. His deep blue eyes were focused on me. His strong features and full lips shaped into a smirk. Can you sit down so I can at least start driving? He said coolly. I scoffed and climbed into the large truck. I closed the door and the lights went out, leaving us with only the glow of the dashboard. I barely had my seatbelt on before he was speeding off recklessly. The truck remained silent for the entire ride, and I felt extremely uncomfortable. He never spared a glance at me, his eyes always trained on the road. He drove with one hand tightly gripping the wheel. I threw myself out of the automobile the minute he pulled up outside my home. He looked momentarily surprised, but quickly replaced the expression with a hard one. I slammed the door and walked around to the front of the truck, noticing he was climbing out as well. Thank you for saving me and driving me home, but you don't have to walk me inside, I said awkwardly. A dark chuckle rose from him. His deep blue eyes turned a shade darker. Don't thank me too soon, darling. The night isn't quite over. Before I could process his words, he grabbed me and pushed me forward. He dragged me up the steps and kicked in the door, hauling me into the clean white foyer before growling out my father's name, Octavius. I tried to push against him, but it was no use. Stop fighting me, he said harshly. Octavius, the man exclaimed. Perhaps we should take this conversation to your office. He lifted me up, and my father's eyes widened before growing dark with anger. What did you do to her? My father growled, stepping forward. The man moved fast, pushing me in front of him and gripping my arms to restrain me. I wouldn't do that, he warned my father, voice dangerously calm. My father must have complied, because the man loosened his hold and pulled me toward the office. He forced me to kneel before him in my father's office, keeping me close. I looked up to my father, worried, and he gave me a small reassuring smile, concern evident as he took in my disheveled appearance. Your daughter is quite the fighter, the man began. He pulled me to my feet and exposed the crook of my neck to my father. I hissed and tried to remove his hand. But if I hadn't shown up, she'd be bearing a mark right here on her neck. He placed a deliberate, cold kiss on the exact spot, causing me to shudder. Enough, my father said sharply. What is it that you want, Ajax? Ajax pulled my hair just enough to tilt my head, running his nose along my neck as if assessing his claim. I tried to move away, but he pulled me flush against him. You know, I was going to demand a few hundred warriors for saving your daughter, but he turned me to face him. He was so tall I was staring at his chest until he lifted my chin and my gaze met his. Once my green eyes met his blue ones, an evil smirk rose on his lips. I think I'll have your daughter instead. My eyes widened. I tried to get to my father, but Ajax was faster. He held me in front of him, facing my father, who looked horrified. No, my father and I said together, firmly. She is my eldest daughter. I appreciate you saving her, but I would rather send 100 warriors than hand her over to someone like you. Someone like me? Ajax chuckled. If I am such a monster, then why ask your permission at all? Why not simply take her? Ajax, my father warned. Ajax pulled at my hair once more, exposing my neck. I tried to break free as the reality set in. I had escaped one threat only to face another. He was going to mark me by force. He was no different from the man he had just stopped. Please, I begged, pulling at the arm wrapped around my torso. Please don't do this. Shh, he whispered in my ear. It will only hurt for a moment. Dad, please. I called out, but it was too late. His canines sank into my neck. I flinched in pain as a burning sensation spread through me like fire through my veins. My father lunged for Ajax, who dropped me to deflect the attack. They fought, slamming each other against walls and furniture. My hand went immediately to my neck. Blood. I had never heard of that happening, but his roughness had caused me to bleed. I backed against the wall, tears spilling. I was marked. The passionate love I had dreamed of was no longer mine to find. I was bound to a man I did not know or choose. I tried to stand and intervene, still weak from the mark's effects. My father delivered a hard punch and grabbed Ajax by the throat. Ajax countered, reversed the position, and pressed my father to his knees, hands around his neck. Ajax, no. I cried out, falling to my knees. Please. I'll go with you willingly. Just don't hurt him. Ajax looked at me, his eyes nearly black. He released my father and shoved him to the floor. If you send anyone after her, I will destroy everything in my path. I flinched, thinking of my mother, my sister, my best friend Siren. I scrambled over to my father and kissed his forehead quickly. Dad, please listen to him. Don't worry about me. I'll be fine. Ajax hauled me up by my arm and pulled me away wordlessly. I love you, Dad, I cried as I was led out and placed in the passenger seat of the truck. He engaged the child lock. Then he got into the driver's seat. Put your seatbelt on, he said as he turned the truck on. I ignored him and leaned my head against the cool glass. My skin felt feverish and I was desperate for cool air. Octavia. Seatbelt, he growled. I ignored him. Fine. He threw the truck into reverse and stomped the gas, then hit the brakes hard. I lurched forward, smacking my head against the dashboard. Are you serious? I yelled, shooting upright as pain spread through my head. He said nothing. He just stared back at me with a blank expression. I held back my tears, put on my seatbelt, and rested my throbbing head against the glass as he finally drove like a sane person. I felt ill, shivering despite the heat still in my body. The night was dark and rain fell harder than before. We had been driving for over an hour in heavy silence when a wave of drowsiness overtook me. I fought it at first. I had hit my head hard and feared the consequences. But it was too overwhelming. I had lost so much tonight, my family, my freedom, the future I had imagined. I rested my head against the glass and let the sleep take me. Maybe I would wake up 10 years from now and find things changed. If only I could be so lucky. Chapter 2. You know when you are lying in bed and you suddenly feel like you are falling? That was exactly how I felt. Continuously falling into an endless void. I could not move or speak. I just kept falling for what seemed like days. Until finally, it stopped. My ears began to ring. I opened my eyes slowly, only to be surrounded by darkness. When they finally adjusted, I looked around carefully. I was not in a hospital room, but there was hospital equipment nearby. I was connected to an oxygen tank, and a heart monitor. The room was large and beautifully furnished. White walls complemented dark wood floors. The bedding was a deep gray, accompanied by white and light gray pillows. There was plenty of greenery throughout, and the curtains were drawn on floor-to-ceiling windows, letting in soft moonlight. I checked the clock on the bedside table. 2 a.m. I looked around again. Where was I? The last thing I remembered was falling asleep in Ajax's truck. I removed the and the heart monitor as I sat up. If I had been connected to hospital equipment, something must have happened. How long had I been out? I stood and searched for the light switch, shielding my eyes when I found it. Once they adjusted, I noticed 3 white doors. 1 beside the light switch, 2 on the opposite wall. I opened the adjacent doors first. The first was a large closet, filled with women's clothing and shoes I did not recognize. The second was a bathroom. I went straight to the mirror. I was relieved to find my 19-year-old face looking back at me. My skin looked nourished, my green eyes vibrant, my chocolate brown hair falling in waves to my waist. My nails were trimmed and painted. Someone had been taking care of me. Someone kind. Whoever it was, it certainly was not Ajax. I have to get out of here. I exited the bathroom and went to the last door. I eased it open and slipped into a long hallway lit by dim candles. I picked up one of the candles and moved carefully down the hall until I found a staircase. I descended to the first floor, grateful for the candlelight. A large foyer. Floor-to-ceiling windows flanked a grand wooden door. Something felt wrong. It shouldn't be this easy. Ajax was not foolish enough to leave me unguarded. But then again, perhaps no one expected me to wake this soon. I grabbed the door handle and swung it open, launching myself into the night. The gust of wind extinguished the candle. But as my feet hit the grass, something hit me. Something large and warm. His large hands gripped my shoulders as he pushed me back. "Oh, Octavia," he whispered. "Did you really think it would be that easy?" I gasped, trying to catch my breath. "Yes," I admitted between coughs. He pulled me up by the arm. "That is incredibly stupid of you." He dragged me back up the steps and into the house. Lucky for me, I enjoy late-night walks. He brought his face close to mine, his deep blue eyes piercing into my green ones. "You had better start showing me some respect, or I will make your life very difficult." His tone was icy. I stared at him without speaking. He finally let go and grabbed my upper arm instead, hauling me back to the room. He tossed me inside and stood in the doorway, arms crossed over his chest. "Clean yourself up and get some rest. Cipher will deal with you tomorrow." He slammed the door shut without another word. "Who is Cipher?" I stumbled to the bathroom, stripped, and stepped into the shower when the water was warm enough. I came out smelling of strawberries and coconut, two of my favorite scents. Had he known that, or was it coincidence? I went to the closet, found my pajamas from home, and opened a cardboard box labeled with my name. Inside were family photos and keepsakes. My heart clenched at the sight of my family. I dressed in my favorite pajamas, turned off the lights, and slipped into bed. A guard breathed quietly outside my door. I turned on my side and fell asleep to the gentle glow of the moon. "Ajax, when are you going to learn to respect someone? You can't treat the future Luna of your pack that way." "She is fine, okay? I am the alpha." I barely know the girl, and she burst into my home. The sound of a firm slap rang through the halls. I lay still, keeping my breathing even, listening. "She is our Luna. If you do not respect her, how is the pack supposed to respect you?" There was silence, then the door opened. Light footsteps approached. "Octavia." A gentle hand touched my shoulder. I turned to face her. Her deep blue eyes were identical to his. Dark waves fell around her shoulders. Her skin was flawless, her lips a vivid red. Ajax's family resemblance was unmistakable, which explained why she spoke to him the way she did. "How are you feeling?" She helped me sit up, looking me over quickly. "My head hurts a little," I said, voice hoarse. "And my shoulders are sore." She muttered something about being deceived, then went to start the shower for me. I followed her to the bathroom and looked in the mirror. I pulled my pajama top off my shoulder to reveal large greenish bruises still healing. I choked back a shudder. This man had no hesitation about hurting his own mate. "Don't worry, Octavia. He will not hurt you again." She tucked my hair into a bun. I met her gaze in the mirror. "You can't truly believe that," I whispered. "Come to me whenever you need help or someone to talk to. Do you understand?" I nodded. She had to be Cipher. "Good. Get in the shower. Clothes will be on the bed. I will be downstairs in the kitchen." I brushed my teeth, showered quickly, and dried off. I looked once more at the bruises. A sob threatened to surface. I choked it back. I am the daughter of an alpha. I will be strong. I slipped on the fitted jeans and light blouse with beige boots Cipher had laid out, then released my hair and ran my fingers through it. I checked myself in the mirror one last time. Afraid, yes, but I would look him in the eyes and refuse to let him see it. I walked down the stairs, gripping the railing. At the base, I heard voices from the kitchen Cipher's and his. "She's very pretty," Cipher said. "She's certainly not plain," Ajax replied, just as I arrived. "Gee, thanks," I said before I could stop myself. He gave me a small glare. Cipher giggled and invited me to sit beside her at the island, placing a bowl of diced fruit in front of me. "Eat up, darling. We have quite the day ahead." I frowned. "Why? What are we doing?" "I'm going to show you around, introduce you to some pack members and our parents, of course." She beamed as she sprinkled blueberries on her pancakes. I nearly choked. Ajax turned around immediately, eyes on me. I swallowed and steadied my breathing. "Don't you think it's a little too soon to meet your parents?" I asked carefully. "You must be joking. They have visited you multiple times while you were unconscious. They are desperate to meet you." My eyes went wide. "They had?" I glanced at Ajax. His expression remained unreadable. "How long was I out?" I asked. "About a week and a half." I simply nodded and continued eating my fruit. A week and a half. My family must have been told the truth by now. I tried not to let my thoughts spiral. Ajax sat across from me and placed a plate of pancakes and bacon in front of me. "Eat the bacon," he said quietly, not making eye contact. I hated how attractive he was. I pushed the fruit aside and ate, grateful for the food whether or not the gesture was genuine. Chapter 3. "Will you please set the table, dear?" Ajax's mother asked as she finished preparing the chicken and pasta. I was, surprisingly, enjoying her company. She was warm and easy to talk to, and somewhere between our conversation about food and music, she admitted how fond she already was of me. I smiled, even if her son clearly couldn't say the same. "Of course." I grabbed 5 place settings and moved to the dining room. Just as I finished, the front door opened. The clean, sharp scent of mint and pine drifted through the house. I breathed it in against my better judgment and clenched my jaw in irritation. That infuriating mate bond. I listened carefully from the dining room as Christina tried to greet him warmly, but he cut her off with barely disguised impatience. "I can't stay long. I have a lot of work to do." "Ajax, you never spend time with us anymore. We're a family, especially now that you've claimed a mate. I am an alpha with an entire pack to manage. I don't have time to sit around. Besides, you know we aren't truly a family. We never have been." His voice was dry and cold. I walked into the kitchen, my eyes dark with controlled anger. How dare he speak to her that way? I had not even been able to say a proper goodbye to my own mother before I was taken, and he talked to us with such careless disrespect. "Apologize to your mother." He took an angry step toward me, jaw tight. "You will not tell me what to do." His eyes darkened as he stepped closer. I held my ground, shoulders squared, chin up. I was an alpha too. I would not be reduced to less. "You think being an alpha makes you untouchable? So am I." I kept my voice level. "And yet here you are, holding me against my will. That doesn't seem very honorable, does it?" He smirked, cold and assured. "Then leave if you wish. Stay here with me, or survive on your own out there. No one will want to claim she-wolf." Did he really just offer to let me go? I glanced at his mother, then toward the door. My family would take me back, Mark or not. So why was he saying this? Was it a trap? "You're bluffing," I said. "Am I?" He raised his brows, lips curling into something close to amusement. "Enough games, Ajax." His mother's voice was quiet, but firm. "I just want to have a nice family dinner." He rolled his eyes and ignored her. Again, "I want to leave." The words were out before I could consider them fully. Christina looked disappointed. But what could she expect? I had been brought here against my will. I already had a family. I did not need to become part of theirs. Ajax shrugged carelessly. "Follow me." My feet moved before my mind could catch up. We passed Cipher in the foyer. Ajax was already gripping the front door handle when she spoke. "Where are you going?" "I thought we were having dinner. Octavia would like to leave. I'm escorting her to the border. I'll return shortly." He held the door and his gaze never left me. His eyes moved over me slowly before returning to mine. There was an emotion there I could not name. I stepped outside and began walking toward the tree line. The crunching of grass behind me confirmed he was following. He fell into step beside me, hands in his pockets, his posture completely relaxed. As if this were nothing. He went through all that trouble to bring me here, and now he was simply walking me to the border? Something was wrong. This felt too easy. We tracked through the forest in silence. After what felt like less than 20 minutes, he stopped. I turned to face him. He was devastatingly handsome. Dark hair, those ocean blue eyes, high cheekbones, full lips. Completely unfair. This is the border of my lands. If you wish to leave, you may. But first, you must bow and make the formal request. He wanted me to bow? To drop to my knees before him? That was a sign of total submission. I would not give him that. Why should I bow to you? I said flatly. Because that is what a willing maid does. His eyes drifted to my neck. His hand reached up and gently moved my hair aside, exposing the mark. His thumb brushed over it, sending a shiver down my spine against my will. You lied, I gritted out, grasping his wrist and moving it away. You were never going to actually let me leave. He closed the space between us. Bow to me. Show me how desperate you are to go back. Run back to the people who truly failed you, starting with your father. Get on your knees. My father is not the monster here. You are the one who marked me against my will and tore me away from my family. You are right. I acted impulsively. There were 1,000 ways I could have handled what I wanted, and I chose the worst one. He reached out and gently took a strand of my hair between his fingers. But the man who nearly marked you that night, he swore loyalty to your very father. And your father knew him. I can protect you better than they ever could. The only one I need protection from is you. He almost smiled. I understand why you believe that. I let my anger control me. But I am not going to hurt you. I stared at him, searching for the lie. You're not telling me the truth. His fingers moved back to my neck, grazing the mark. His eyes darkened. Your father trusted that man and should not have. If you want to go back to him, bow and ask. I will honor the request. His voice softened. My knees felt weak from the proximity and the pull of the bond. Why was he saying this about my father? What did he know? Let me go back to my family, I said quietly. You had no right to take me. You took away my chance at a real connection, at real love. The least you can do is let me go. Something in his eyes shifted. The storm behind them calmed. He inhaled slowly. Do as you please, he said, his hands returning to his pockets. I looked at him, then at the forest beyond the border. I took a step forward. He didn't move. His face showed nothing. One foot after another, I stepped across the invisible line. I was free. I could see my family. I would ask my father what Ajax had meant. I looked back once. He still stood there, watching, brows furrowed, then turned back toward the forest. And then the pain hit. It was like a burning iron pressed to my neck. My mark. The fire raced down my shoulder and spine and dropped me to my knees. I gripped my shoulder, desperate for it to stop. Ajax! I called out in panic. What is happening? He crossed the border and crouched beside me. The pain is the bond resisting a rejection. It's a slow process. It can last for days. He lifted me to my feet, but my knees gave out and I leaned into him. His scent of mint and pine steadied me, even against my will. How do I make it stop? I gasped. Stay with me, Octavia. A little longer, and the pain will pass, he said, still supporting me. I need to go home. The fire roared through my chest. Black spots consumed my vision, and I nearly slipped from his hold. I gripped his arms and blinked hard until the world returned. The pain will only grow stronger for both of us. For both of us? I looked up at him. He was in pain too? Okay, I breathed out. I will stay. I don't want this pain anymore. Please. As you wish, he said, and scooped me up carefully. His arm supported my back and the other was beneath my legs as he carried me like I weighed nothing. The moment we stepped out of the tree line, Cipher appeared at Ajax's side. What did you do to her? She exclaimed, glaring at him. She attempted to reject the bond. I am bringing her home. And with those words he walked away. I let myself hold on to him, the pull of the bond and the fading pain leaving me no choice. If you are enjoying this story, press the like and subscribe button. Chapter 4. I gasped awake from a terrible dream. Flashes of the night I had been taken swirling through my mind. I shoved the blankets off, feeling overheated and confined. The clock read 3:47 a.m. I went to the bathroom, turned on the cold water, and pressed my wet palms to my face. The coolness helped. I gripped the sink, leaning forward and breathing slowly. I didn't want to be here, but the pain of separation was unbearable. All I could do was wait. I dragged myself back to bed and pulled the blankets over my head. Rise and shine, my beautiful girl. Cipher chirped in my ear, practically sitting on top of me. I groaned and shoved her away, burying my face in the pillow. The clock read 6 a.m. She emerged from the closet with workout clothes in hand, telling me to change and skip the shower. I obeyed, too tired to argue. Brushed teeth, combed hair into a high ponytail, changed into the high-waisted leggings and sports top. Why this early? I asked, sitting on the bed to put on my shoes. Alpha's orders. We hold spontaneous training sessions at any time to ensure everyone is always ready. She checked herself in the mirror. She was tall and lean, graceful and feminine all at once. I, on the other hand, was shorter than most she-wolves and had brown hair and ordinary features. My wolf bristled at the comparison, but I couldn't help it. I had always been insecure about my height. Are you even listening? Cipher pulled me from my thoughts. I'm sorry. My mind wandered. Obviously. She rolled her eyes playfully and tugged me off the bed. I didn't sleep well, I admitted as we closed the front door. Right, because from what I saw you were sleeping like a baby, she said, grinning. I was not. I exclaimed. She laughed, and for a moment she reminded me of Siren. Always knowing how to lift the mood. Come on, before the alpha tears my head off for being late. She giggled and tugged me toward the training field. Everyone from 16 to 45 was either in the gym or outside on the field. I scanned the room instinctively, searching for a face I didn't want to admit I was looking for. I couldn't find him. Maybe he was outside. Not that it mattered. Cipher and I ran the outdoor track for a solid 20 minutes. I kept pace with her easily despite her longer stride. I had pushed myself for years to compensate for my shorter frame. We brought our pace down to a jog and talked about lighter things. I asked Cipher if she had a partner. She nearly laughed out loud. The last person I dated was when I was 12. Let's just say it did not end well for them. You're stunning, though. Surely you've had many offers to be mated, I said. Plenty, she said casually. But none of them are really my type. And what is your type? I asked, genuinely curious. Tall, confident, and a total force to be reckoned with. She kept her voice light. That describes a large portion of the pack, I laughed, scanning the nearby training field. You're going to make me spell it out, aren't you? She rolled her eyes. Maybe. I like girls. My jaw dropped, but somehow I kept jogging. I had not seen that coming at all, and immediately felt like an idiot for not. Those poor guys must have been so confused, I said sympathetically. She burst out laughing and had to stop running entirely. I stopped with her, watching her try to catch her breath. You are so funny, she said. I want to carry you around with me everywhere. I am not that small. Almost. She shrugged and grabbed my wrist, pulling me off the track. Onto sparring, she announced once we reached the open field. She stood across from me and I looked up at her, waiting. 2 rules. First, no attempting to seriously injure another pack member. If the Alpha or Council finds you guilty of doing so intentionally, you will face exile or worse. Second, if someone does die during a sparring session, you answer to the Alpha. No counsel required. It has happened before, though not recently. Who will I be sparring? Me. She smirked and immediately swung at me. I ducked and took a fighting stance. A warning would have been nice. There are no warnings in war. She swung again. I ducked and jabbed her in the stomach, kicking her in the side. She landed a punch to my chin, but I deflected the rest, brought my knee into her gut, then connected with a clean strike to her chin. She recovered fast and hit my shoulder and cheek. We reset. Just as we were ready to go again, Ajax stepped between us. This doesn't seem like a fair fight, he said, looking down at me. Cipher is your friend. She would never truly push you to your limit. That punch was fairly solid, I said dryly. My point, he said, addressing us both with a sharp look, is that she needs to spar with someone who doesn't know her. He glanced around the field. Diana. An auburn-haired girl perked up. She was athletic, built similarly to Cipher but slightly shorter. Her eyes lit up at Ajax's voice as she trotted over. Cipher made a quiet sound of disapproval. I crossed my arms and tried to ignore the flicker of something uncomfortable in my chest. Hi, Alpha, Diana said, her voice soft and high. You think Diana could hold her own against an alpha? Cipher asked, barely concealing her amusement. Is this tiny girl actually an alpha? Diana giggled and touched Ajax's arm. I pushed back the surge of irritation. Good things come in small packages, Ajax said, a low chuckle in his voice. Are we going to spar or not? I said flatly. Ready to lose, little one? Diana released Ajax's arm and stepped toward me. I didn't wait. The moment she was close enough, I hit her square in the nose and followed with 2 knees to her midsection before she could recover. There are no warnings in war, I said evenly, echoing Cipher's words. Diana regrouped, furious, and we went at it properly. She was decent. She landed a few hits. But she kept looking at Ajax for approval, and that cost her. I knocked her back, then knocked her down. I stood over her and spit blood from my busted lip onto the ground beside her. Looks like I won. She shrieked and scrambled up. Who do you think you are? I am Octavia. Daughter of Octavius, Alpha of the Snow Moon Pack. Show some respect. I looked over at Ajax, who wore a satisfied smirk. Of course, he had planned this. Next time you put someone in my path like that, they will not walk away, I said to him, then turned and walked off. Cipher fell into step beside me. Octavia. Cipher called, but I kept walking. I was furious, and I could not quite explain why. I did not even like him. So why did Diana affect me this much? The bond. It had to be the bond. Hey, Cipher said softly, catching up and putting a hand on my shoulder. Are you okay? No, I admitted, and before I could stop it, my lip was quivering. I pressed my eyes shut. Do not cry, Octavia. I could not stop it. The tears came. Don't cry. Cipher pulled me into a hug, her chin resting on top of my head. For what it's worth, you were amazing back there. I'm proud of you. Cipher, I miss home, I mumbled into her shoulder. She pulled back and gave me a sad smile. I know. But you have to be strong. I believe Ajax will come around. He can't be like this forever. She smiled and began walking me back toward the mansion. Your type was tall, fierce, and a total force to be reckoned with, I teased through my remaining tears. You're definitely fierce. We could try a different hair color. I am not dyeing my hair. Not even for me? Nope. I smiled despite myself, shaking my head. You're breaking my heart. She pressed her hand dramatically over her chest. You'll survive. I laughed quietly. I was grateful for Cipher. Without her, I did not know how I would have endured any of this. Chapter 5. A week had passed since the sparring incident. Ajax had been largely avoiding me, which was strange since tormenting me seemed to be one of his preferred activities. Not that I was complaining. In the meantime, I had been getting to know the pack. I made a new friend in Cynthia, who was Samuel's sister. The 3 of us had grown fairly close, though Samuel's proximity meant Ajax was nearby more often than I liked. Cipher had been busy all week helping her mother plan the joining ceremony, which also meant today was the day I would have to face Ajax in front of the entire pack. My wolf had been restless, unsettled by the distance. I was currently on the training field with Cynthia, running laps to burn off nerves. I can't wait to see you in your ceremonial dress tonight, Cynthia smiled. I'm already nervous, I admitted. What if it resembles a wedding dress? What if I trip in front of everyone? Everything will be fine, Cynthia said, placing a hand on my shoulder. If I know Cipher, she will not let anything go wrong. She was right. Cipher was meticulous and I would trust her over my own nerves. I told Cynthia I was going to shower and rest before the evening. It was noon. The ceremony was at 10. I had the afternoon to myself. I wandered the territory at a leisurely pace, noticing again how beautiful and well-maintained it was: rich greenery, wild flowers, thriving forest. The pack was proud of their home, and it showed. I slipped into the mansion and headed upstairs, listening. Ajax was in his study, the scratch of a pen followed by typing. I went in my room without incident, stripped off my clothes, and stepped into a cool shower. Once clean, I let the tub fill and added my 2 favorite body washes, creating light bubbles. I sank in and closed my eyes, allowing myself a rare moment of peace. Which, of course, was shattered immediately when Cipher barged in. "Oh, it's just you," I said flatly at her laughing face. "What was all the screaming about?" Ajax appeared in the bathroom doorway, then immediately stiffened at the sight of me in the tub. He kept his gaze above my shoulders. "Cipher doesn't know how to knock," I said, settling deeper into the water. "Don't start," Ajax said to Cipher. Whatever tension existed between them ran deep. "I was only here to help get our future Luna ready for the ceremony," Cipher said evenly, her chin lifted. "Send Christina," Ajax said. "I would genuinely prefer her company to yours right now." Cipher shot me a small smile before walking out. I sighed. "Was that necessary?" I asked Ajax. "I know my sister well enough to recognize when she is becoming too attached to someone. And we are leaving the morning after the ceremony." My lips parted slightly. "Why?" "I am taking Samuel to a potential alliance meeting. There is no one here I fully trust to watch over you. And Cipher has grown fond of you." He did not say more. He picked up a towel and walked to the tub, turning off the water. He turned the shower on briefly to rinse, then offered the towel without looking directly at me. I wrapped it around myself. He leaned toward my ear as he adjusted the towel. "If you try anything reckless running, escaping, there will be consequences. And before you threaten me with my father, remember, you would need proof." "I will cut your fingers off one by one," I said flatly, then caught myself and started laughing. That was the most ridiculous thing I have ever said. A slight smirk pulled at his lips, the closest I had ever seen him come to laughing. "I hope that is a promise, ugly duckling," he said, and walked out. I stared at the door. "I hate him," I whispered to myself and fully meant it. The box on the bed held a beautiful white dress. Cipher had chosen perfectly, not bridal, not plain, just right. Light, comfortable, elegant. I laid it out and admired it for a moment, then heard a knock. Christina poked her head in with a warm smile. She apologized on behalf of Ajax and Cipher both, then spent the rest of the afternoon with me. She painted my nails, did an exfoliating mask, and explained the ceremony in calm detail. "You will walk barefoot through the pack, head held high, and join the Alpha family on the stage. You and Ajax will draw blood, press your hands into a bowl of water, flowers, and soil. You'll be welcomed into the pack. Then we run. What if I trip? You will be fine either way, dear." We talked for hours about ordinary things. I hadn't realized how much I missed Netflix until she mentioned the mansion had its own theater room. Ajax had never given me a tour, and I had been too wary to explore alone. She insisted on cooking for me, then helped me with my hair. She curled it effortlessly, creating loose waves, and said I needed no makeup at all. "Oh my, you look gorgeous," she said, helping me into the dress. I looked at myself in the mirror. The ceremony would officially sever my ties to the Snow Moon Pack. I would no longer be my father's daughter in the eyes of Pack law. I would belong to the Crescent Blood Pack. To Ajax. A single tear slipped down my cheek. I wiped it away and held my head up. Samuel gave me the signal, and I walked out, hands flat on my stomach as Christina had instructed. All the females wore black. The males were shirtless in black dress pants. No one wore shoes. The sight of Ajax shirtless made me breathe a little differently. My wolf stirred in excitement. I pushed her back firmly. Once I reached the stage, Alexander extended his hand and brought me to stand beside Ajax. We stood behind the ceremonial bowl. "We are gathered here today to welcome Octavia to the Crescent Blood Pack as the mate of Ajax Black and Luna of this pack," Alexander said, his voice carrying over the crowd. My cheeks flushed. Luna. I had never imagined that word would belong to me. Ajax took the dagger and sliced his palm without flinching. Not even a blink. He squeezed his fist over the bowl and handed it to me. I held his gaze and did the same, a sting, but nothing I couldn't bear. I let my blood drip. Unite hands and close your eyes. Ajax took my hand. I felt an electric current pass between us. Alexander raised our joined hands for the crowd to see, then guided them into the bowl. The current returned. Stronger, spreading through me. Then gone. It is complete. Welcome, Luna. Alexander bowed. The pack followed. My cheeks burned. Thank you, I managed. Now we run. The crowd cheered. Ajax's smirk spread slowly as he glanced at me. He flashed his eyes, deep blue going black, before returning to their usual color. I flashed mine back, forest green going almost cream. The crowd dispersed. Ajax disappeared behind a tree. A large black wolf emerged a moment later. My breath caught. He was enormous, even by alpha standards. My wolf could barely contain herself. He snapped his teeth playfully and turned toward the trees, waiting. I walked over and, with his nudging, stepped behind the tree. I stripped quickly from the white dress, shifted, and shook out my cream and white fur before trotting out to join the others. Ajax let out a piercing howl, answered by me and the alpha family. We ran. Ajax led, and I matched his pace without effort. I pushed a little harder and found myself pulling ahead. A wolfish grin spread across my face. He let out a low, playful growl and sped up to chase me. I had always been the fastest wolf in FireMoon. We circled the territory 3 times. Many wolves lingered to play. Others went home. After the 3rd lap, I trotted back toward my clothes and shifted, pulling on my dress before Ajax caught up. You never told me you were that fast, he said quietly behind me. I startled and let out a small sound. Because our conversations are never pleasant enough to reach that topic. He had already shifted back and was, I quickly noticed, without a stitch of clothing. I looked away immediately. Why cover up now? He scowled. Because before, you couldn't speak. He chuckled as I retrieved his clothes and threw them at him. He was still undressed when he walked closer. I stepped back and grabbed my dress, pressing it to my chest. You're going to need to help me with the zipper, I finally said, giving in. He pulled it up slowly, his hands moving with deliberate care along my back, then pausing at the top. I shivered and tried to ignore it. Thank you, I muttered quickly, trying to step away. His hand enclosed around my arm. What are you doing to me? He growled, pulling me flush against his chest. I gasped. My hands pressed flat against him. I looked up. You're hurting my arm, I said quietly, tugging at his grip. His name seemed to break through whatever had taken hold of him. He released me and stepped back, looking away. Go home and rest, he said, his voice flat again. The drive to FireMoon is long. I nodded and walked away quickly, pressing my hand to my arm. A bruise was already forming. My heart raced, but not only from fear. His words echoed in my mind. What are you doing to me? What did that even mean? Back at the mansion, I washed up, changed, and climbed into bed. I told myself I was not tired, that I wasn't still thinking about the look on his face in the forest. That what I felt was strictly the bond and nothing more. I fell asleep telling myself all of those things, and I half believed them. Chapter 5. A week had passed since the sparring incident. Ajax had been largely avoiding me, which was strange since tormenting me seemed to be one of his preferred activities. Not that I was complaining. In the meantime, I had been getting to know the pack. I made a new friend in Cynthia, who was Samuel's sister. The 3 of us had grown fairly close, though Samuel's proximity meant Ajax was nearby more often than I liked. Cipher had been busy all week helping her mother plan the joining ceremony, which also meant today was the day I would have to face Ajax in front of the entire pack. My wolf had been restless, unsettled by the distance. I was currently on the training field with Cynthia, running laps to burn off nerves. I can't wait to see you in your ceremonial dress tonight, Cynthia smiled. I'm already nervous, I admitted. What if it resembles a wedding dress? What if I trip in front of everyone? Everything will be fine, Cynthia said, placing a hand on my shoulder. If I know Cipher, she will not let anything go wrong. She was right. Cipher was meticulous and I would trust her over my own nerves. I told Cynthia I was going to shower and rest before the evening. It was noon. The ceremony was at 10. I had the afternoon to myself. I wandered the territory at a leisurely pace, noticing again how beautiful and well-maintained it was: rich greenery, wild flowers, thriving forest. The pack was proud of their home, and it showed. I slipped into the mansion and headed upstairs, listening. Ajax was in his study, the scratch of a pen followed by typing. I went in my room without incident, stripped off my clothes, and stepped into a cool shower. Once clean, I let the tub fill and added my 2 favorite body washes, creating light bubbles. I sank in and closed my eyes, allowing myself a rare moment of peace. Which, of course, was shattered immediately when Cipher barged in. "Oh, it's just you," I said flatly at her laughing face. What was all the screaming about? Ajax appeared in the bathroom doorway, then immediately stiffened at the sight of me in the tub. He kept his gaze above my shoulders. "Cipher doesn't know how to knock," I said, settling deeper into the water. "Don't start," Ajax said to Cipher. Whatever tension existed between them ran deep. "I was only here to help get our future Luna ready for the ceremony," Cipher said evenly, her chin lifted. "Send Christina," Ajax said. "I would genuinely prefer her company to yours right now." Cipher shot me a small smile before walking out. I sighed. Was that necessary? I asked Ajax. I know my sister well enough to recognize when she is becoming too attached to someone. And we are leaving the morning after the ceremony. My lips parted slightly. Why? I am taking Samuel to a potential alliance meeting. There is no one here I fully trust to watch over you. And Cipher has grown fond of you. He did not say more. He picked up a towel and walked to the tub, turning off the water. He turned the shower on briefly to rinse, then offered the towel without looking directly at me. I wrapped it around myself. He leaned toward my ear as he adjusted the towel. "If you try anything reckless running, escaping, there will be consequences. And before you threaten me with my father, remember, you would need proof." "I will cut your fingers off one by one," I said flatly, then caught myself and started laughing. That was the most ridiculous thing I have ever said. A slight smirk pulled at his lips, the closest I had ever seen him come to laughing. "I hope that is a promise, ugly duckling," he said, and walked out. I stared at the door. "I hate him," I whispered to myself and fully meant it. The box on the bed held a beautiful white dress. Cipher had chosen perfectly, not bridal, not plain, just right. Light, comfortable, elegant. I laid it out and admired it for a moment, then heard a knock. Christina poked her head in with a warm smile. She apologized on behalf of Ajax and Cipher both, then spent the rest of the afternoon with me. She painted my nails, did an exfoliating mask, and explained the ceremony in calm detail. "You will walk barefoot through the pack, head held high, and join the Alpha family on the stage. You and Ajax will draw blood, press your hands into a bowl of water, flowers, and soil. You'll be welcomed into the pack. Then we run. What if I trip? You will be fine either way, dear." We talked for hours about ordinary things. I hadn't realized how much I missed Netflix until she mentioned the mansion had its own theater room. Ajax had never given me a tour, and I had been too wary to explore alone. She insisted on cooking for me, then helped me with my hair. She curled it effortlessly, creating loose waves, and said I needed no makeup at all. "Oh my, you look gorgeous," she said, helping me into the dress. I looked at myself in the mirror. The ceremony would officially sever my ties to the Snow Moon Pack. I would no longer be my father's daughter in the eyes of Pack law. I would belong to the Crescent Blood Pack. To Ajax. A single tear slipped down my cheek. I wiped it away and held my head up. Samuel gave me the signal, and I walked out, hands flat on my stomach as Christina had instructed. All the females wore black. The males were shirtless in black dress pants. No one wore shoes. The sight of Ajax shirtless made me breathe a little differently. My wolf stirred in excitement. I pushed her back firmly. Once I reached the stage, Alexander extended his hand and brought me to stand beside Ajax. We stood behind the ceremonial bowl. We are gathered here today to welcome Octavia to the Crescent Blood Pack as the mate of Ajax Black and Luna of this pack, Alexander said, his voice carrying over the crowd. My cheeks flushed. Luna. I had never imagined that word would belong to me. Ajax took the dagger and sliced his palm without flinching. Not even a blink. He squeezed his fist over the bowl and handed it to me. I held his gaze and did the same, a sting, but nothing I couldn't bear. I let my blood drip. Unite hands and close your eyes. Ajax took my hand. I felt an electric current pass between us. Alexander raised our joined hands for the crowd to see, then guided them into the bowl. The current returned stronger, spreading through me. Then gone. It is complete. Welcome, Luna. Alexander bowed. The pack followed. My cheeks burned. Thank you, I managed. Now we run. The crowd cheered. Ajax's smirk spread slowly as he glanced at me. He flashed his eyes. Deep blue going black before returning to their usual color. I flashed mine back, forest green going almost cream. The crowd dispersed. Ajax disappeared behind a tree. A large black wolf emerged a moment later. My breath caught. He was enormous, even by alpha standards. My wolf could barely contain herself. He snapped his teeth playfully and turned toward the trees, waiting. I walked over and, with his nudging, stepped behind the tree. I stripped quickly from the white dress, shifted, and shook out my cream and white fur before trotting out to join the others. Ajax let out a piercing howl, answered by me and the alpha family. We ran. Ajax led, and I matched his pace without effort. I pushed a little harder and found myself pulling ahead. A wolfish grin spread across my face. He let out a low, playful growl and sped up to chase me. I had always been the fastest wolf in Snowmoon. We circled the territory 3 times. Many wolves lingered to play. Others went home. After the 3rd lap, I trotted back toward my clothes and shifted, pulling on my dress before Ajax caught up. You never told me you were that fast, he said quietly behind me. I startled and let out a small sound. Because our conversations are never pleasant enough to reach that topic. He had already shifted back and was, I quickly noticed, without a stitch of clothing. I looked away immediately. Why cover up now? He scowled. Because before, you couldn't speak. He chuckled as I retrieved his clothes and threw them at him. He was still undressed when he walked closer. I stepped back and grabbed my dress, pressing it to my chest. You're going to need to help me with the zipper, I finally said, giving in. He pulled it up slowly, his hands moving with deliberate care along my back, then pausing at the top. I shivered and tried to ignore it. Thank you, I muttered quickly, trying to step away. His hand enclosed around my arm. What are you doing to me? He growled, pulling me flush against his chest. I gasped. My hands pressed flat against him. I looked up. You're hurting my arm, I said quietly, tugging at his grip. His name seemed to break through whatever had taken hold of him. He released me and stepped back, looking away. Go home and rest, he said, his voice flat again. The drive to FireMoon is long. I nodded and walked away quickly, pressing my hand to my arm. A bruise was already forming. My heart raced, but not only from fear. His words echoed in my mind. What are you doing to me? What did that even mean? Back at the mansion, I washed up, changed, and climbed into bed. I told myself I was not tired, that I wasn't still thinking about the look on his face in the forest. That what I felt was strictly the bond and nothing more. I fell asleep telling myself all of those things, and I half believed them. Chapter 6. I ran fast, dashing through the woods, dodging trees. I had to get away. I could feel them getting closer. The cold wind nipped at my nose and ruffled my fur as my paws thudded against the snowy ground. My heart only raced faster. My wolf rejected the thought of hiding and pushed me to run harder. But it was no use. He was still there. Still chasing us. He's coming for you. Octavia. Octavia, wake up. Honestly. Samuel sighed heavily and shook my shoulder before shaking it more firmly, earning a groan from me. Ajax is coming if you don't get up, he said, leaving the room. My mind was foggy from the dream. Who had I been running from? I burrowed deeper into the blankets. No way would Ajax bother coming up here just to wake me. I was sure of it. I was wrong. The lights flicked on. I kept my eyes shut. Something felt off. Then I was being lifted and everything was very cold, the bathtub. Ajax had placed me in it and turned on the water at full cold blast. I shrieked and jumped out, sputtering. "What are you doing?" "Good morning, ugly duckling." His face was expressionless. "You have 10 minutes to get ready." He left without another word, then popped his head back in. The maid laid out an outfit. "Wear it. We need to look presentable." I made a face at his retreating form and got moving. Teeth, face, hair. The outfit in the closet was a lovely 3/4 sleeve floral maxi dress with a blush floppy hat and block heels. Nicer than I expected. I slipped it on, put my hair in waves with a bit of heat, added lip balm, and turned to find him already in the bathroom doorway. "Wow, she's actually a normal she-wolf height," he said, that familiar smirk in place. "And here I thought you were going to say something kind for once," I replied flatly, placing my hand over my heart with exaggerated disappointment. "Really?" He raised an eyebrow, barely suppressing something. No, my voice fell completely flat. I grabbed my hat and strode past him. At the bedroom door, he caught my arm, turning me to face him. "I will only say this once, so hear it clearly. Don't let it go to your head." His gaze pinned mine. "You look stunning." He released my arm and walked away. I stood in the doorway for a full 5 seconds with warm cheeks and absolutely nothing to say. In the kitchen, I found Ajax and Samuel laughing genuinely, fully laughing. Ajax's face was flushed. It was the first time I had seen him like that. Samuel spotted me and beamed. "Short cake." "Wait, actually not so short today. Did you borrow height from someone?" He burst out laughing at his own joke. "Very funny," I said, fighting my smile. Ajax finished, buttoning his suit jacket, and stood up straight. I forced myself to look away. He was infuriatingly attractive in a suit. "Here, you missed breakfast." Samuel tossed me a granola bar. Ajax placed a hand on my lower back and guided me toward the door. "You had better be admiring me and not Samuel," he murmured near my ear. "What?" I touched my mouth instinctively. "I was not admiring anyone," I said quickly. "Of course not." His smirk returned. It never really left. A line of black SUVs waited outside. Ajax explained the formation, protection in unfamiliar territory. A guard opened our vehicle door and Ajax helped me in without ceremony. He answered his phone almost immediately after sliding in beside me. I glanced at the partition controls and found a button that lowered the tinted glass. I pressed it a few times, fascinated. Ajax ended his call and caught my hand, lifting it away. He raised the partition and gave me a flat look. "Must you touch everything?" I crossed my arms and ignored him. He sighed. Silence stretched. "Octavia, promise me you'll behave when we arrive." "Yes, Ajax," I said in a blank, mechanical tone. "Don't call me that." He caught my chin and turned me to face him. "You are my mate. My Luna. You will call me Ajax, especially in front of others." "Understood." I nodded as much as his hold allowed. His eyes traveled over my face, slow and searching. His thumb brushed across my lower lip, light as a breath. My pulse stuttered. Until now I had never been sure whether he found me attractive. He had called me stunning this morning. He was looking at me like that now. But he had chosen me purely to spite my father. I was still just a pawn. "Ajax," I said carefully, "did you choose me as your mate only to get back at my father?" His hands moved to cut my face, and he rested his forehead against mine. "I don't want to discuss that." I pulled back. I should not have felt disappointed. But I did. I moved to the window and let the blur of trees occupy my eyes. "Octavia, don't do that." "I am trying." "Trying how?" "You ripped me away from my family, treated me poorly, and still won't tell me the truth. How long does it take before you actually try?" He looked away. Jaw tight. I could see the effort it cost him not to snap back. I watched the forest and thought about Orion and Odin and Odessa and my mother and father, all living their lives without me. I pressed my cheek to the cool glass. I opened my eyes to find my head resting on Ajax's lap, the rest of me curled across the seat. I sat up immediately. "I'm sorry," I said quickly. "For what?" He looked genuinely puzzled. "For sleeping on you. You seemed uncomfortable. I moved you." He placed my floppy hat on my head as the guard opened the door from outside. "That was 5 hours," Samuel announced cheerfully as he met us beside the vehicle. "Why didn't you warn me it would be that long?" I hissed quietly to Ajax. 4.5, technically. "We can talk later." He wrapped an arm around me loosely as an older man approached, Alpha Jackson, the father of the FireMoon Alpha. We were welcomed into the pack house and led to a large, well-appointed office. Not long after, the Alpha himself arrived. A blonde man about Ajax's height, polished and smooth in a way I did not immediately trust. His hazel eyes found me almost immediately and did not leave easily. Ajax sat close to me. His hand found mine without asking. The Alpha offered me his seat beside him. Ajax answered for me. She is comfortable here, beside her mate. I smiled apologetically and stayed put. At dinner, the Alpha's attention only intensified. The meal was lobster, which I could not eat, so Ajax and Samuel quietly consumed what was left on my plate. The butler kept my water glass full. Through it all I felt the Alpha's gaze like pressure. Something about him unsettled me. Something almost familiar in a way I could not place. When we finally retired for the night, I nearly ran to our room. Ajax followed, calm and measured as always. "I'm going to shower first," I called over my shoulder. "Noted." In the bathroom, I stepped into the warm shower and let the tension drain from my shoulders. I wrapped myself in the silk robe when I was done, then realized too late that Ajax had chosen exactly that moment to come in. "Don't you know how to knock? Why were you in such a rush to get back here?" He leaned against the door frame, arms crossed. "These people are strange, and I do not appreciate being stared at. We leave after the meeting tomorrow. This alliance is a no." He was as sure as he was about everything. I rummaged through my luggage and found only silk sets that looked more like formal sleepwear than something to sleep in. He tossed me a plain white t-shirt. "Thank you," I said quietly. He showered. I prepared the bed, contemplating whether or not to claim a side before he emerged. He came out in dark sweatpants, nothing else. I managed not to stare. I climbed into bed, pulled the covers up, and kept my eyes on the ceiling. The lights went out. The bed dipped on his side. Quiet settled. "Why do you get that side?" he muttered, just as I was drifting off. I smiled into the pillow and said nothing. I woke to bright morning light streaming through curtains we had forgotten to close. And something holding my waist. Ajax had an arm around me. Somehow, between sleeping on opposite sides, he had crossed to mine. I tried to carefully slide free. His grip tightened, pulling me closer against him, and I felt, quite distinctly, something I was absolutely not prepared for at 7 in the morning. I squeaked and tumbled out of bed entirely, landing hard on the floor. "What are you doing?" Ajax propped himself up on one arm, barely awake, looking completely unbothered. "I thought I saw a bug," I said quickly. "On the window." Outside. A long silence. "Right," he said finally. He rolled out of bed and went to the bathroom without comment. I climbed back up, straightened the covers, and pressed my palms to my flushed cheeks. I had to stop letting him affect me like this. He stepped out in nothing but a towel. "You could be partially dressed, at least," I said, covering my eyes. "One day we're both going to have to face certain realities," he said matter-of-factly. I knew what he meant. I refused to acknowledge it. There was a knock at the door. Samuel entered while Ajax was still buttoning his shirt and announced to the room at large that he had heard the word intimacy and had come to investigate. I rolled my eyes and turned on Netflix. The she-wolf who delivered our breakfast tray bowed fully when she brought it in. Too fully. I was not even part of this pack. A simple nod would have been enough. Once Ajax and Samuel left for the meeting, I settled into the couch, fruits in hand, and put on my show. I had precisely no intention of thinking about the man who slept with his arm around me and smelled unreasonably good. I was failing immediately. Chapter 7. "This is unbelievable," I said sharply. 3 days? You both had the maid pack my things without telling me. Don't make a scene, Ajax said coolly, already back at the desk with Samuel, looking over the alliance contract. I was, at least, glad they had gotten to work immediately. The faster they finished, the sooner we would be out of this place. I explored the room, found it had its own bathroom and a decent closet, and eventually settled onto the couch. Netflix was installed. I pulled up a show I had been watching with Siren before everything changed. A she-wolf about my age strutted in without knocking a short while later. She seemed primarily interested in Ajax and Samuel. She left a tray of fruit and shot me a look as she set it down. I leaned forward and let out a low sound. She startled backward. I snapped a strawberry off the tray and bit it. Behave, Ajax said flatly, not looking up. Yes, Ajax, I said in a voice dripping with sweetness. Samuel snorted. Ajax turned to the she-wolf. Leave. And do not come back unless called. She left immediately. I went back to my show, and for the first time in a long time, I let myself just watch something for the joy of it. I had been so deep in survival and grief since I arrived that I had forgotten what it felt like to sit still and breathe. When an exciting plot development hit the screen, I might have made a noise. What was that? Ajax looked up. The story just took a major turn. I said, not even bothering to look at him. He and Samuel sighed in unison, returned to their work, and I heard one of them very quietly ask what was happening on screen. Time moved quickly. Samuel left around 5:30, complaining his eyes hurt from staring at small print. Dinner was in 30 minutes. I went to the bathroom to freshen up and was ambushed on my return by the realization that Ajax was watching me. I don't want you near Brandon during dinner, he said quietly. You know, I wouldn't have guessed you'd be protective over someone you've treated so poorly, I replied, sitting on the bed's edge to put my heels back on. He stood and came toward me. He took my face in both hands and pulled me to my feet in one sharp motion. I don't care what I have or haven't done. You belong to me. No one else. Do you understand? I grabbed his forearm and tried to pull free. Do you understand? He repeated, his grip tightening. Yes, I said between clenched teeth. He released me with a slight push. I hated him. I hated him. I hated him. Tears welled up, but I would not let them fall. Not for him. A knock. The she-wolf escort appeared. Ajax grabbed his jacket and left. I smoothed my dress and followed. Dinner was extravagant and deeply uncomfortable. Brandon's relentless attention made the meal feel like a test of endurance. Ajax kept me seated between himself and Samuel. Brandon tried to offer me a better seat beside him. Ajax dismissed it in 2 sentences. I was grateful. By the toast, I was already planning my escape from the table. I made it upstairs first. I showered, wrapped myself in the silk robe, and exhaled. Why were you in such a rush? Ajax asked, leaning against the bathroom door frame when he appeared. That man makes my skin crawl. Also, something about him feels familiar, and I cannot place it, and that bothers me. After the meeting tomorrow, we are leaving. I'm not agreeing to this alliance. I dug through my bag and found only the silk sets. He tossed me his plain white t-shirt again without being asked. Thank you, I said, allowing myself to mean it. I changed and prepared the bed. He would come out of that shower and choose a side, and I would either be gracious about it or not. I opted for gracious, climbed in, and closed my eyes. The lights went off. The bed shifted. Why do you always get that side? Was the last thing I heard. Chapter 8. The trees around me towered like skyscrapers as I ran through them, pushing through cold and fear. My fur was thick and warm, my paws melting the snow. I pushed faster. Something heavy pressed down on me. I was terrified. Run, Octavia. A deep voice. A whimper slipped from my snout as I forced myself harder. I did not know what I was running from. Octavia. And then he appeared in front of me, dark graying hair, forest green eyes focused and steady. Dad? I tried to stop. Tried to shift. I could not. I tried to speak. Only whimpers came. A distant howl, approaching fast. He's coming for you, Octavia. The last words he spoke before a large grayish-black wolf leaped over him, casting him in shadow. The wolf landed on top of me and I screamed. "Octavia. It's okay. I'm here." His hands moved up and down my arms. The scent of him reached me even through the haze of the dream. His heartbeat, strong and steady beneath my ear. "It was just a dream," he said. I lifted my head. He was watching me with concern, the usual cold mask absent. I was in his lap. His arm was around me. He handed me a glass of water, and I drank the whole thing in 2 swallows. I still couldn't make myself look at him directly. I was afraid of what his eyes might hold. The kindness felt precarious. I looked around instead, home. My room. The clock said 8:37 p.m. Did you hurt him?" I asked quietly, voice still rough. A flashback of the man from the forest road crossed my mind. "I wanted to," Ajax said. "But killing an alpha carries consequences I cannot afford right now. I didn't want his father pursuing you in retaliation." "So he is fine?" I asked, uneasy. "He is not fine, but he is alive." His hands rubbed my back slowly. "The pack healer believes Brandon's claws were laced with wolfsbane. The sedative he gave you was also laced with it. That's why you struggled to recover." My palms started to sweat at the memory. Ajax moved quickly, carrying me to the bathroom. He knelt beside me as I was sick, pulling my hair back, rubbing my back until it passed. "I will make you rinse your mouth," he said, helping me to the sink. I did. Then he lifted me because my ankles were still weak and carried me like I was small and light, which I was. I hung on to him rather than argue about it. "I am not 5 years old," I said into his shoulder. "You are holding on like you are," he replied. "I just don't want to fall." "I could carry you with one arm and not drop you," he said with quiet confidence. He set me on the kitchen island and pulled crackers and fruit from the cabinet. I looked down at myself, his black t-shirt. Much too big for me. Comfortable. I looked at the bruised and bandaged skin of my wrists and ankles. "How is Cipher?" I asked. A significant source of inconvenience when we returned. "She wanted to wrap you in cotton padding and not let you move until you healed." He pulled out a small fruit bowl and set it in front of me along with water. "She is sweet. Too sweet. Especially toward you." His tone was unreadable. He leaned against the counter. A long quiet settled. Then he said, "Before you ask, Cipher and I are not close." "Not anymore." "We used to be." I looked up. He was not looking at me, but his jaw was working. "What happened between you?" "There are things about my family, Octavia, that you do not know yet. Things I am not ready to tell you tonight. You brought me here. Without my consent. And you still won't tell me why." I pressed the point because I had to. "I have a right to understand." "Enough," he said, and the word came with weight. Not cruelty, but something beneath it. I flinched instinctively and covered my face with my arm. A long pause. When I lowered my arm, he was watching me. And for once, the mask had slipped entirely. He looked hurt. "I was not going to hurt you," he said quietly. "You gave me reason to expect otherwise." He looked away. "It was never my intention. Every time I look at you I see your father and the anger." He stopped. Pushed off the counter. "I am becoming exactly like someone I despise." "Who?" I asked softly. He shook his head. "Eat a little. I'm taking you back to bed." I ate a few crackers and some fruit and drank the full bottle of water. He cleaned up without being asked. We sat in silence after. I did not push again. He carried me upstairs, past the 2nd floor, all the way to the 3rd. His room. I had never been up here before. It was modern and clean, almost startlingly so. One entire wall was glass, overlooking the forest at night. A large bed centered on the back wall, dark bedding, glass nightstands. A sitting area with a flat screen. His scent was everywhere. He set me down and pulled back the duvet, then sat me up against the headboard before turning off the overhead lights and leaving only the lamp beside me. He lay down on his side facing the wall, back toward me. I turned on the television, keeping the volume low. It was nearly 1 in the morning when I made the mistake of watching something too intense. A scene began that I was not prepared for: assault, fear, helplessness. I turned it off immediately. Tears came before I could stop them. I unwrapped one of my wrist bandages and looked at the cuts that had not fully healed. I slid carefully off the bed and limped to the couch, pulling the decorative blanket over my shivering body. I could not believe how much had happened since I left my home that night. I tried to stop crying but could not. I pressed my face into the cushion and waited for the dark to take me. I woke to sunlight. I blinked. I was in his bed. He must have moved me again. 8:27 a.m. Ajax was not in the room. Cipher appeared a few minutes later, hair in a messy bun, bright eyes soft with concern. She asked to look at my wrists, sighed when she found them still unhealed, and wrapped them again gently. My ankles, we were both relieved to find, were nearly fully healed. I bathed you and washed your hair while you were sleeping, she said. I hope that was all right. Thank you, I said. For everything. You are my sister-in-law and my Luna, she said simply, and pulled me into a hug. She led me down to my room, picked out an outfit, and sent me to wash my face. I looked at myself in the mirror for a long time. The bags under my eyes were heavy. My lip was raw. I washed my face, brushed my teeth, and when I came out, Cipher handed me a soft, cropped sweater and comfortable leggings. You look better already, she said. By the time we reached the kitchen, Christina was already there making breakfast. She looked up and rushed over, pausing just before touching me. I was so worried, she said. How are you feeling? Better, I said, and took her hand in both of mine. Much better. It was mostly a lie. But it felt good to have people around who genuinely cared. It felt, oddly, like home. Chapter 9. 2 weeks had passed since the incident at FireMoon, and I had found a kind of normalcy inside the Crescent Blood Pack. The members were welcoming and respectful, addressing me as their Luna wherever I went. I had taken my role seriously, making sure things ran smoothly, helping the elderly, looking in on the children. Today I sat in the children's schoolroom, a small girl perched in my lap as I rocked in the corner chair. Her blonde pigtails were tied with silky pink bows, and her bright blue eyes widened with delight as I reached the ending of the story. The end, I announced brightly, closing the book. Luna, please read it again, she begged, those chubby cheeks dimpling. That will be the 3rd time this morning, Lola. She looked at me with such undisguised hope that I could not say no. I opened the book again, and she cheered and clapped her little hands. The door opened partway through. The guards announced the Alpha's presence, and every child in the room bowed their head in unison. Ajax made his way over to us with a rare, genuine smile for the children. Good morning, he told them all, then crouched to Lola's level. I am terribly sorry to interrupt, but would you allow me to borrow Octavia for a little while? Lola pouted and thought about it at length. Then she looked up at me. But when will you be back? The day after tomorrow, I promised, kissing the crown of her head. I will finish the story then. I handed her the book and settled her at a table with the other children before following Ajax outside. I didn't know you were so good with children, Ajax said. You just have to be kind. It's not complicated. He led me home, explaining that he, Cipher, and Samuel were leaving in a few hours to attend a mating ceremony at a neighboring pack. He wanted me to come. The last time I was at one of those, I said, I ended up here. His jaw tightened slightly. I promise I will not leave your side. Cipher and Samuel will both be there. And there is no one here I trust to watch over you in my absence. So I do not actually have a choice. You do not. But I thought it polite to explain rather than simply push you into the truck. Fair enough. Cipher arrived later with an entire rack of dresses, announcing it might be the day she found her mate, and she intended to look perfect. I helped her try on everything twice. She steered me firmly away from the white dress I liked and toward a deep burgundy one that fit me extremely well. We made salad for lunch, Cipher vetoing my request for pizza and ranch dressing with a look that could curdle milk. Samuel came in and agreed with me about the pizza. Cipher threatened us both with a piece of lettuce. Samuel fell off his chair trying to dodge it. Cipher and I collapsed laughing. Ajax stayed longer than usual, and at one point I thought I saw him smile, a real one, not the controlled kind, but it was gone before I could be sure. By evening, Cipher was in my bathroom attempting to curl my hair while describing her ideal match in elaborate detail. Can you curl my hair too? She asked. You could wear a paper bag and look gorgeous, I said, reaching for the curling iron. She laughed, and it occurred to me how strange and right this felt, how in the middle of everything terrible, these moments kept appearing. I would hold on to them. I put on the burgundy dress and thigh-high boots Cipher had pulled out. I looked at myself in the mirror, and for once, I liked what I saw. When I stepped out of the closet, Ajax and Cipher stopped mid-argument. He looked at me for a moment. "Every male at that party is going to want to know her name," Cipher said to him. He gave her a cold glare and walked out without a word. "Must you always do that?" I asked her. I only told the truth. She grinned, unrepentant. We met Samuel, Weston, and a couple of others downstairs. The ride to the Moonclaw Pack was quiet between Ajax and me, as usual. He kept the silence comfortable in that unnerving way he had developed, not oppressive, just present. Once inside the grand ballroom, the evening came alive. Live music, swirling dresses, laughter in the air. I took a drink from a passing tray and people watched with quiet contentment. Cipher pulled me onto the dance floor and we made absolute fools of ourselves waltzing to upbeat music, drawing confused looks from other guests and not caring at all. Eventually a strawberry blonde made her way toward us. She asked, very politely, if she could have a dance with Cipher. I stepped back with a smile and watched them go. I turned to make my way off the floor and walked directly into someone. A young man with hazel eyes and an easy smile caught me before I stumbled. He laughed, and so did I. He was kind and funny and asked if I wanted to dance. I knew I should have declined, but Ajax was nowhere to be seen, and I was tired of standing still. We danced respectfully, his hands above my hips, his eyes on my face. He was the alpha son, Henry, I eventually gathered. He kept cracking jokes about his parents outdoing themselves with the party. Then, over his shoulder, I spotted a familiar face. Siren. Brown hair, familiar features, but her expression fear. Real, plain fear. I was about to call out to her when Ajax appeared at my side and pulled me away. "What is wrong with you?" I pulled my arm free. "What were you thinking?" "I saw Siren," I said urgently, scanning the room. She was right there. She looked terrified. Snowmoon was not on the guest list. I checked personally. But I saw her. Octavia. He took my face gently in both hands. "She is not here. I promise." My lip trembled. The first tear escaped. He sighed and wiped it from my cheek. "Let's go home." I nodded. He found Cipher and said our goodbyes. Outside the entrance I waited, arms crossed against the cold. 11 minutes passed. A voice came from behind me. Well, if it isn't the one who got away." My blood turned cold. I turned slowly. Brandon stood a few feet away, healed completely, wearing a dark smile. "What are you doing here?" I said, forcing my voice steady. "Looking for someone. Strange how you're the first person I find." He took one step toward me. Then large hands landed on my shoulders from behind, warm, certain. "Ajax. She will be the last person you see if you don't step back," Ajax said quietly, and the quiet was more dangerous than any volume. Brandon stepped back. Our truck pulled up. Ajax guided me in and locked the doors. He sat beside me and for a moment just breathed, fists tight in his lap. "I'm sorry," he said, unprompted. Before I could respond, he lifted me and settled me into his lap, wrapping his arms around me. His lips pressed to the crown of my head. His hands moved up and down my arms. I unclenched everything slowly. The memory of Brandon and the nightmare of the past weeks faded. I rested my head against his chest and let his heartbeat steady me as the lights of the city blurred past and I fell asleep in my mate's arms. Chapter 10. I rolled over slowly and pressed my face into the pillow, then sat up quickly as the previous night came back. We were home. His room. The clock on the nightstand read 9:22 a.m. The bathroom door opened. Ajax stepped out in nothing but a towel, hair damp from a shower. I looked at the ceiling. "Oh, she lives," he said, amused. "I'm awake and I'm going," I said, sliding toward the edge of the bed. "Cipher came back last night," he said, more quietly now. "Alone and unmated." She's been asking for you. I paused. Poor Cipher. She had wanted last night to be so significant. She's at her parents' house? Has been since we got back. Christina doesn't know what to do with her. I pulled myself off the bed. I'll go to her. I looked pointedly at the floor beside him. After you find clothes. He grinned, the boyish one, the rare one, and I left before I could dwell on it. I showered and dressed quickly, pulling my hair into a high ponytail before heading across the territory to the Alpha family home. Alexander opened the door and ushered me in with relief. He pointed upstairs. I knocked on the second door to the right. Nothing. I tried again. Cipher, it's me. I eased the door open. The walls were deep gray, the furniture white with soft blues and grays. Cipher sat on the bed, knees to her chest, staring at the wall. On it, printed words. Small inspirational phrases arranged around one large word in the center. Love. Just because it didn't happen last night doesn't mean it won't happen, I said, sitting beside her. I'm tired of waiting, Octavia, she snapped, her voice uncharacteristically brittle. I am 21 and unmated. I shook my head. I had no patience for this. I climbed off the bed and turned to face her. You know what I would give to have the option to choose? To actually fall for someone gradually, on my own terms. I kept my voice even but firm. You have a choice. You can sulk here and feel sorry that love doesn't arrive on your timeline, or you can live your life and let it find you. Just be grateful that you get to choose it all. She opened her mouth. I held up one hand. I love you, but I need you to hear this. I turned and left, closing the door quietly. My heart was heavy. I hated speaking sharply to her, but she needed to hear it. Downstairs, Christina was waiting with a warm smile. I want you to know, she said, that we appreciate you more than you know. You are changing Ajax. Slowly. But you are. She walked to the kitchen before I could respond. Was I? Was I really changing him? He still ran hot and cold. Still had walls I could not see over. But the kitchen mornings, the truck rides, the way he had held me last night, that was something different. I walked home slowly and changed into exercise clothes. I slipped out and made my way to the training center alone, grateful to find it empty. Hours passed. I had worked through most of my frustration by the time Samuel appeared at the gym doors with a blonde girl I didn't recognize. Oh, there you are. Samuel looked genuinely relieved. He turned to the girl and asked them both to wait, then bolted. The doors slammed open moments later. Ajax scanned the room and his shoulders dropped slightly at the sight of me, then rehardened as he walked over. You should have told someone where you were. I had half the pack looking for you. They obviously weren't very thorough. I've been here the whole time. I unwrapped my knuckles and set the tape aside. From now on, tell me where you're going. His voice was controlled, but his eyes carried something past frustration. Did you think I was trying to escape? He ran a hand through his hair. He was stressed. I could see it in the way he tugged at the ends. The doors opened again. A guard jogged over and bowed. Alpha. Luna. The border guards have detained an intruder. A she-wolf. She claims not to know where she is. Has she been questioned? Awaiting your order. I'm coming with you, I said immediately. You are not. I am Luna of this pack. What happens here involves me too. He stared at me for a moment. Then he turned to the guard and started walking. I followed. The cells were in a damp stone room below one of the outbuildings. At the bottom of the stairs, dim light filtered through a single window high on the wall. A guard stood outside one of the cells. Open it, Ajax said. We stepped inside. The cell was dark. A figure huddled in the corner, brown hair covering her face. She was wearing a party dress that was now torn and muddy, as if she had traveled a long way at speed. She shivered. Ajax crossed his arms. What is your name? Silence. I will ask once more. A soft voice. My name is Siren. Chapter 11. My name is Siren. The familiar voice echoed through me. I felt the blood drain from my face and my knees weaken. Ajax caught me before I could sink. What's wrong? He asked, concern edging through the control. I looked up at him. He wiped the tears I hadn't realized were falling, and his expression shifted as understanding reached him. He stepped back. I knelt in front of my best friend and reached for her. She flinched, pulling away. My heart broke. "Siren," I whispered. "It's me." "It's Octavia." Her head snapped up. Her dark eyes took in my face slowly, then her hand came up to touch my cheek as if making sure I was real. Her eyes filled and she threw her arms around me. "I thought I would never see you again." Her voice was muffled in my shoulder. I held her tight, crying openly. My relief was physical, a weight I had been carrying without naming suddenly lifted. "What happened to you?" I pulled back to look at her. "It's a long story," she said, shivering. "Then we will talk after you are clean and warm." I helped her stand. A guard stepped into the cell doorway. "I'm sorry, Luna. She is a trespasser. She must be questioned first." I looked at him evenly. "I am your Luna and she is family. Not a threat. Stand down." He glanced at Ajax. "Do not look to your alpha. You answer to me as well. Now step aside." My voice was steady and clear. He bowed and moved. Ajax followed us up the stairs and out into the daylight. Siren stopped and closed her eyes in the sun for a moment. "You held your ground beautifully," she said, walking beside me. "I had a good teacher." I smiled, and she returned it, a small echo of the girl I remembered. I brought her to my room and left her with a towel and clean clothes. She stepped into the shower while I sat on the bed and tried to think. What had brought her here? How had she found me? She emerged clean, wrapped in dry clothes, rubbing her hair with the towel. "Has he hurt you?" she asked, dropping onto the bed beside me. "Physically?" A knock came before I could answer. Ajax stood in the hallway. "Let's get this over with." His eyes moved over my face briefly before he turned and walked. I took Siren's hand and we followed him upstairs to his office. Clean lines, white shelves, a glass desk backed by a window full of autumn light. We sat in the two chairs facing him. He looked tired and sharp all at once. "How did you come to be on our lands?" he asked. "I was running," Siren said, not meeting his eyes. "I didn't know where the border started." "Who were you running from?" She swallowed. "He said he would kill me if I told anyone." "Siren," I said softly, "you are safe here. Tell us." "I'm scared." She shook her head. "He threatened me, Octavia." "He threatened you. He threatened our families." "Who?" Ajax's voice was sharpened. "If you cooperate," Ajax said, sitting forward, "I will personally see you return to your pack safely. You have my word." The promise of going home visibly broke something open in her. But before she could answer, I asked the question that had surfaced from the pit of my unease. "Was it Brandon?" She stiffened. "You know Brandon?" "We visited his pack," I said carefully. Siren looked between us. "He was the one who attacked the pack the night you were—" She stopped, choosing her words. "The night you were taken. He was coming for you. He wanted to use you to salvage the alliance with FireMoon. Your father had rejected him." My shoulders went tight. "Who are you running from if not Brandon?" Ajax said, pacing again. "He said he will kill me if I tell," she whispered. "His name." Ajax stopped pacing. Siren looked at me, then back at him. "His name is Ajax. And he wants to hurt Octavia in front of you." Chapter 12. I sat patiently and furiously, watching Ajax pace the length of his office. His eyebrows were drawn together, arms crossed, lips tight. 3 minutes of silence. I was about to explode. "Are you kidding me?" I stood and pressed my hands flat on his desk. He stopped, faced me, and leaned forward. "I am thinking," he said very quietly. "So sit down and be patient. You are the one who brought me here. My life is at risk because of your choices, and you won't tell me who this person is or why he wants to hurt me." "I killed his father," he said. The room went still. I straightened up slowly. "Why? That is not a conversation I am having tonight." I snatched the papers he had been reviewing from the desk before he could reach them and backed away. He stood, clearly irritated. "Octavia, give those back. Tell me why you killed that man's father." He walked toward me. I backed up. My shoulders hit the wall. He was in front of me in seconds, hands bracketing my head on either side, eyes boring into mine. "You can't hide your past from me forever," I said. I can try, he said, and the ghost of a smile was almost amused. He pulled the papers from my hands. Don't call me that, I muttered. Even though you are very beautiful, I need you to leave now. I blinked. Beautiful? Yes. Your face is very nice to look at, but you ask too many questions. He opened the office door and pushed me gently through it, then shut it in my face. I turned back to the closed door and exhaled. I was not done with this. But I could feel, distantly, something like momentum, a wall with a crack in it. I made my way downstairs and followed the sound of voices to the kitchen. Siren was there with Samuel, who was asking where she was from. She seemed nervous. I walked in. Tavi, she turned to me with relief. I greeted them all and turned to a girl I didn't know seated beside Samuel. She introduced herself as his possible mate. Samuel winced slightly. The girl was already pressing close to him in a way he was doing an excellent job of politely ignoring. Cipher announced she was going out and guided the girl away with her. Once they left, Siren turned to me with shining eyes. Girls' day. I laughed. Yes. We ransacked the kitchen cabinets and loaded up on every terrible snack we could find. Pop-Tarts, cookies, fruit snacks, popcorn, little cakes. We turned to each other, arms overloaded, wearing matching ridiculous grins. Last one to the room. I called and bolted. She protested loudly that it was unfair, and I was already halfway up the stairs. We sprawled across the bed with the snacks between us and talked and laughed for hours. She told me about her many suitors and why none of them had worked out, and I found myself smiling at the familiarity of it. Siren, larger than life, effortlessly confident, turning the world to her liking. Has he hurt you? She asked, quieter now, taking my hand. In the beginning, yes. Things have changed since then. He's still complicated. Still difficult. But different. She squeezed my hand. When I found out you were gone, Tavi, it was one of the worst days of my life. I'm here now, I said. I pulled her close and held on. For a long moment, it felt like home again. Chapter 13. The wind combed through my fur and my paws thudded against snow. Fear coursed through me as I ran faster. Who was I running from? I pushed harder. Octavia. No one there. Snow fell and my wolf grew more anxious. He's close. My father appeared before me like a light. I tried to stop. Tried to shift. Only barks escaped me. He's come for you. Then a silver wolf leaped over him, obscuring him from view. It landed on top of me. I screamed. Octavia. He was rubbing my arms. His heartbeat steady beneath my ear. His scent calm and real. It was just a dream, Ajax said. I lifted my head. His eyes were dark and warm and worried. I was in his arms again. Octavia, this is the second time you've screamed in your sleep, he said. What's happening? My father was there, I told him. He said someone was coming for me. Then 2 wolves, a silver one and a dark gray one. Siren had been asleep at the foot of the bed. She sat up now, rubbing her eyes. Are you okay? The first 2 times I had this dream there was only 1 wolf, I said. This time there were 2. What did they look like? Siren asked, a strange alertness in her voice. The one who attacked me was silver. The one circling was gray with dark hints. Siren's face changed. You don't see silver wolves often, she said, looking away. Ajax's grip tightened slightly. Silver, he murmured. Maybe it's a coincidence, I said. Maybe it was just a dream. Ajax. I touched his face gently, drawing his gaze. Whatever it means, we'll figure it out. He glanced down at my hand. His fingers found mine and brought them to his lips, pressing a kiss to the tips. Then one to my palm. I felt warmth move up my arm. My father kept a record of every wolf he had encountered, Ajax said. In both forms. It's a large volume. If there is a silver wolf connected to all of this, I may be able to identify them. That sounds like something Alexander would do, I said. It's not Alexander's book. His voice went flat. Alexander is not Ajax's father. The thought settled quietly into place. I didn't say it out loud. Lead the way, I said instead. Chapter 14. The wind combed through my fur as I ran across snow, pushing hard against something dark and close behind me. A heavyweight. Terror I could not name. My paws hit the ground fast. Octavia. My father. His familiar eyes, calm and steady in the dream space. A silver wolf vaulted over him. A dark gray one circled. The silver wolf pressed me down. I opened my mouth to scream. Octavia. Look at me. Sparks. His hands at my shoulders. His scent. Open your eyes. I gasped awake, lungs expanding hard. I grabbed the closest thing to me. He was already there. It's okay, he said, steadying me. You're here. I've got you. I breathed until I could speak. Same dream. But this time there were two wolves, not one. Siren, awake at the edge of the bed, said Silver. Silver and dark gray, I said. Her expression shifted. She knew something. I had seen that look on her before, the moment just before she looked away. You know who the silver wolf is, I said. She pressed her lips together. Said nothing. Siren. Maybe it's only a dream, she said, but she couldn't meet my eyes. Ajax said nothing. He had seen it too. He stood from the bed. I'll go find the book. You two come when you're ready. In his office, the large leather volume was already on the desk. I stood at Ajax's shoulder as he began to turn pages. Siren paced the room near the door, biting her thumbnail. You're hiding something, I said to her. I'm not. Your eyes roam everywhere except mine when you're not telling the truth, I said. I've known you my entire life. She opened her mouth, closed it, said she needed a bandage for her finger and slipped out. Ajax and I were alone. He sat me down in his lap, not an accident, I realized, just a thing that had become natural somewhere between all the awful moments and continued through the pages. His hand rested on my thigh, tracing absent shapes. I tried to focus on the script and not on the warmth of him. Your scent is making this very difficult to concentrate, he said. I moved to stand up. He pulled me back. Relax. Stay. He pressed a brief kiss to my shoulder. I stopped protesting. Siren returned with a small bandage on her finger and a pinched expression. She's hiding something about the silver wolf, I said to Ajax under my breath. I know, he said. She hadn't come back to us. She was standing near the window, staring out. Siren, I'm going to go check on you, I said, standing. Ajax caught my wrist. Our eyes met. Come back. I will, I said. And I meant it. Chapter 15. The book was extraordinary old leather, gold cursive on the cover in a language I didn't recognize, pages worn soft from handling. Inside, the records were in English, laid out methodically, pack name, rank, name, appearance in both forms. Ajax had placed me in his lap again to read it together, and I had stopped pretending I objected. His hand rested warm against my thigh. Siren was back, pacing near the door again. She hadn't told us yet what she knew. She would. I knew her. Your scent is distracting me, Ajax said quietly. I'm not doing anything, I replied. I know. His jaw worked slightly. He turned another page. Ouch! Siren had bitten her thumbnail down too far. Ajax and I both looked up. She offered an embarrassed smile, finger bleeding. I'm going to find a bandage, she said, and left. She's hiding something about the silver wolf, I said. I noticed. She couldn't hold my eyes after I mentioned it. She'll tell us eventually, he said. Or I will find it in here. He kept turning pages. I kept reading over his shoulder. Several minutes passed and Siren had not returned. She's been gone too long, I said, standing. His hand closed around my wrist. I stopped and looked down at him. His ocean blue eyes were softer than usual, carrying something he wasn't saying. His thumb moved slowly across the inside of my wrist. I'm going to keep you safe, he said. Whatever happens. I will not let anything happen to you. No matter what. The words were simple. His voice was not. I gave his hand a small squeeze. I know. Go. Keep Siren distracted, he said. There's a movie room in the basement. I'll come when I've found something. You have a movie room and you waited this long to tell me? I didn't think you were the type who. I am absolutely the type. I turned for the door. Octavia. I paused. The way I treated you in the beginning was inexcusable. I turned back to face him. He had stood from his desk. He walked toward me slowly, and when he reached me, his hands moved to my neck, tilting my face up. He kissed my temple, my cheek, my jaw. His lips found the curve of my neck. I gasped softly when they settled on the mark, and a current moved through me. I stepped back, pressing my palm over my mouth. A warm, quiet sound rose in his chest. He looked at me with dark eyes and something like satisfaction. "Have you ever been kissed?" he asked. Yes. Of course. That sounded uncertain. He stepped toward me, backing me gently against the door. His hand pressed to the wood beside my head. His lips brushed my ear. "I'm going to find Siren," I announced, ducking under his arm and speed-walking out. He called after me, "Find your friend." "Already leaving." I leaned against the office door from the outside and breathed for a moment. Then I went to find Siren. Chapter 16. Siren found the movie room before I did and had already located the website that streamed recent theatrical releases. Our favorite guilty pleasure film was queued up by the time I arrived with a bowl of popcorn. The room was incredible, enormous screen, leather recliners, a candy bar, and a popcorn machine. Siren and I had circled the room twice in disbelief before settling in. We watched, shoveled snacks, and made our running commentary on the screen. When a particularly dramatic scene played, Siren grabbed my arm and I grabbed the armrest. "I love that part," we said together. "Interesting choice of movie," said a voice. We both startled violently. Siren nearly fell off her chair, reaching for the lights. I hit pause. We turned around to find Ajax leaning against the wall near the entrance, arms crossed, entirely amused. I started. "It was a completely innocent situation," Siren offered. "You came in at the good part," I said, immediately regretting it. He raised his eyebrows. "It does seem that way." Siren leaned over and whispered, "I feel so embarrassed." I nodded. "Me too." "Siren," he said, straightening. "You have a lot of explaining to do. Octavia and I will meet you in my office in a few minutes." She ducked her head and scurried out. He looked at me with calm, ocean blue eyes. "So this is the good part?" "Yes." "Is everything okay with Siren?" I avoided eye contact. He stepped toward me. "I'll tell you something," he said. "Your friend was keeping an important detail from us. And if your dreams are more than nightmares, we are all in a great deal of trouble." "What important detail?" He was very close to me now. His hand came up to cut my face, his thumb brushing my lower lip. "Jalex is the Silver Wolf." The words landed cold and immediate. "Are you sure?" "Completely." I swallowed. "I need to speak with Siren." "I know." He guided me toward the door. "But first, is my back half as interesting as Christian Grey's?" I pressed my face into my hands. "Please stop." His chest rose with a quiet laugh. Chapter 17. I rubbed my tired eyes and leaned back. Reading this cramped cursive was giving me a headache. I stood and began pacing, something I did when the weight got too heavy to sit with. How did all of this happen? I slammed a fist to the desk. The thought of my father made me feel sick. I remembered the black car, the back seat, his cold profile. Sit still and behave. Jarjen doesn't like children who act out. But the sting of his palm across my cheek. The tight silence that followed. No one spoke. No one ever did. I shook the memory loose. I needed to find the Silver Wolf. For Octavia's safety. That was what mattered. I sat back down and returned to the pages. His handwriting made my skin feel cold. I wanted Octavia's scent in this room. Coconut and vanilla. It settled my nerves in a way I hadn't expected anything to be able to. I had never intended to mark her that night. I had gone to confront her father, to show Octavius the consequence of turning me away when I needed help years ago. When I saw his daughter had grown into such a capable, striking young woman, something snapped in me. I had marked her. I had used it as revenge against a man I despised. The satisfaction lasted days. And then she had looked me in the eye without flinching and asked me to apologize to my mother, and something I had been carrying shifted. The bond grew stronger every day. My wolf had no patience left. He wanted her close and would not hear reason. I turned another page. And stopped. Quarter moon pack. Alpha. Jarjen Cove. Reddish brown wolf, brown eyes. Quarter Moon Pack. Alpha, next in succession. Jalex Cove. Silver Wolf, Blue Eyes. Of course. Of course it was him. My hands hit the desk. Siren had known. She had watched me sit here for hours, and she had known exactly who the Silver Wolf was. She had let me search while she stayed quiet. My wolf surged, furious. I held him back. Octavia would not survive losing her best friend twice. And whatever Siren had done, she was still terrified of Jalex. I could use her fear. I could not afford to act on impulse. I left the office and followed Octavia's scent toward the movie room. Her laughter reached me before I opened the door. Warm and unguarded in the way it only was when she forgot to be careful. I stood in the doorway and watched her for a moment. She had not noticed me. She was completely absorbed. She was so effortlessly herself. That had been the first thing, on Valentry Street, not her face, not her voice, but the way she was so entirely herself without apology. The judgment in the bag for the skeptical man. The documents already printed. I found the word for what I was feeling and immediately put it back. I announced myself. Both she and Siren startled. The aftermath was worth watching. Siren went pale. Octavia went red. I sent Siren upstairs first. Then it was just the two of us. She was avoiding looking directly at me. Her green eyes kept finding the pause screen, the popcorn, her own hands. I watched her pretend she was not affected and felt unreasonably pleased that she was. Your friend was keeping something important from us, I told her. And if your dreams are more than nightmares, we're in a great deal of trouble. What did she keep from us? Jalex is the Silver Wolf. She went very still. She knew, I said. Why would she? Fear, perhaps. Or something else. We'll find out. I brought her upstairs. She was quiet, thinking. I watched her process and did not interrupt. In the office, Siren sat in one of the chairs, leg bouncing fast. You knew, I said. You knew Jalex had a Silver Wolf and you said nothing. Her legs stopped. Her face went still. I didn't want to make things worse. I told you he was coming. I didn't think it mattered that she dreamed about it. It matters when she has had the same dream repeatedly. My voice was sharp. Withholding information is worse than telling us and letting us be frightened. I'm sorry, she said quietly. Did Jalex give any indication of when he planned to move? No. I ran a hand through my hair. Useless. I needed a timeline, patrol rotations, reinforced borders. I needed to be ahead of this. Snow, Octavia said. I looked at her. In every version of the dream, there was snow on the ground. She met my eyes. I think the snow matters. Today was November 7th. The first snowfall came in December. We had weeks, not days. That was enough time. Jalex would regret ever thinking about my mate. Chapter 18. November 9th. Just eat the salad, Cipher said, pushing the bowl toward me. Give me the ranch and I will eat it, I said, sliding it back. She had the bottle of ranch dressing behind her back. I narrowed my eyes. She narrowed hers. You are being completely ridiculous, I told her. You are eating nothing but cookies and calling it nutrition, she replied. Cipher and I had quietly moved past our argument. With Jalex's threat hanging over everyone, grudges felt small. Ajax had told the key people about the situation and was debating whether to address the full pack. I had argued for transparency, better to be prepared than blindsided. Siren walked in with that specific smile she wore when she had a secret. There are so many people here I've never met, she said. Focus, Cipher said dryly. You're cute, Siren told her. Barf, I said. Eat your salad, Cipher said to me. Siren spotted the hidden ranch, handed it to me triumphantly. I drowned the greens without remorse. After breakfast, I went to the pack house to see to my Luna duties. I found it in chaos, people pacing, voices raised, children crying and being comforted by their mothers. Luna, thank goodness, an older woman said, touching my arm. Someone started rumors about an attack. Everyone is frightened. Quiet, please. I called out, using the full weight of my alpha tone. The room settled immediately. 100 faces turned toward me. I know there have been rumors, I said. Alpha Ajax, Beta Samuel, and I are working to verify the situation. Until then, patrol has been doubled and every precaution is in place. You have nothing to fear at this time. Questions broke out. How do we know they won't come tomorrow? What about the children? You're asking us not to worry when our families are at risk? I held my ground. I had nothing more to offer them but honesty. Then the room shifted. Ajax's voice cut through the noise, calm and absolute. If your Luna says you are safe, you are safe. Stop questioning your Luna and go about your day. Pack training begins at 6 tomorrow morning for every member above the age of 10. He looked over the crowd. Now, people filed out. You did well, Ajax said quietly when they were gone. They're just scared. Thank you for... Diana appeared from the stairs, touching Ajax's arm with practiced ease. Alpha, you were magnificent. They were almost eating that poor little girl alive. A flush of heat moved through me. His face shifted to mild annoyance. Respect your Luna, he said, and stepped away from her hand. She turned to me with a pout. But Sweeth, I have had enough. I stepped forward and kept my voice even. I am an Alpha and your Luna. If you disrespect me once more, there will be consequences. And for the record, throwing yourself at my mate while I'm standing 5 feet away is disrespectful. Get out. She scoffed and left without another word. The few people who had lingered dispersed. Ajax fell into step beside me as we left the pack house. Octavia. I stopped. He was closer than I expected. His eyes were a deep, intent blue, full of something he was clearly trying to contain. He kissed me. My brain stopped and then restarted somewhere in the vicinity of my heart. Chapter 19. November 12th. The west and south borders are the weakest. We need more coverage there. I disagree. They'll likely come from the north and try to flank. The pack house is north. Ajax, what do you think? I was thinking about her hair. I refocused. West needs reinforcement. Strengthen the rotations there. Keep the men well rested and properly fed. I signed the order Samuel passed across the table. That's everything for today. I left the conference room with one thought. She had been avoiding me since I kissed her, and I was done pretending not to notice. I loosened my tie walking back to the house. She hadn't sought me out in 4 days. She had been spending nights in Cipher's room and filling every hour with tasks and company, so carefully arranged that I could not claim any part of her time without making it obvious. Which it already was. I needed to see her. I poured a glass of water in the kitchen and set it on the counter untouched when I heard the front door. Her scent reached me before she did vanilla and coconut, washing through the room like early morning. Octavia. She startled halfway up the stairs and grabbed the railing. Then she turned to look at me, cheeks already pink. I'm not avoiding you, she said preemptively. Come down here and talk to me, I said. How does the pack border situation stand? She descended cautiously and stopped in front of me, close enough that I had to remind myself of every reason I should keep my hands still. Sam checked the full perimeter, I told her. The west border needs reinforcement. There will be additional guard rotations inside the house as well. Don't be alarmed by unfamiliar faces. You think Jalex will approach from the west? Possibly. Or from the east, destroying as much as he can until he reaches you. She went quiet. Her thumb moved back and forth across her fingers, something she did when she was trying to contain worry. I reached out and cupped her face before I could talk myself out of it. Don't. We have weeks. We are prepared and we will be more prepared still. You're safe. I held her eyes with mine. I need you to believe that. She nodded and looked away. But she hadn't moved from my hands. I pressed my lips to the top of her head. Pack training in 30 minutes, I said, releasing her. Go change. Sure, she murmured, turning for the stairs. I watched her go and then went to find a different shirt. A knock. Come in. She stood in the doorway in a sports bra and athletic pants, hair pulled back. She looked young and uncertain and beautiful. I thought we could walk over together, she said. I picked up my shoes from the floor. Of course. We walked side by side down the hall. The silence was different from before, not heavy, just present. Ajax, she said when we stepped outside. I know things are strange between us. I know you don't entirely trust me, and I don't entirely trust you. But this isn't how I want the rest of our lives to be. She stopped and turned to face me. I want to try. If you're willing to try, I am too. I looked at her for a moment, this small, fierce, relentless person who had spent months pushing against everything I was. I let myself smile. Just slightly. I want to know you, I said. And I would like you to know me. In time. In time, she agreed, visibly relieved. We walked to the gym together. Chapter 20. November 12th. We walked side by side to the gym, his arm occasionally brushing mine and sending a quiet current up my arm each time. I had been a fool. He kissed me, and I ran. Hid. Organized my days so precisely around avoiding him that I had practically made an art of it. I miss my family. That was always underneath everything. But the thought of what had been done to me, what had been taken, was not the sharp, unbearable thing it once was. It had softened into something sadder and quieter. Something I carried rather than fought against. What are you thinking? He glanced over. Honestly, I miss my family. I shrugged. I think about them all the time. I am sorry. I wish I could relate to that. You can't miss what you don't remember having, I said. A long pause. Alexander is my uncle. Christina is his mate. My parents are dead. I studied my expression. How? My mother ended her own life. My father was killed. I did not offer condolences. He had said it too flatly for condolences to mean anything. They were not good people, he said, before I could speak. Do not feel sorry for their deaths. They were not fit to be leaders, or family, or anything to anyone. The best thing that happened to this pack, to Cipher and to me, was that they were gone. I nodded. Okay. Thank you, he said, and then did something unexpected. He pulled me into a hug, quiet and sudden and completely without warning. I stood frozen for a moment, then relaxed and let myself lean into him. I breathed in the scent of him. Pine and something warmer underneath. My wolf settled completely. Siren hasn't asked to go home yet, he said, when we pulled apart and continued toward the gym. She's had a difficult time, I said. She needs a few more days. I think it's strange, he said. She's afraid of Jalex when questioned, but otherwise she seems comfortable here. No urgency about returning. No visible grief. I chewed on that. She doesn't keep things from me, I said. We've been close since we were children. People can keep things from people they love, he said quietly. Especially when they are afraid. I hope you're wrong. So do I, he said, and pulled the gym door open. Inside, Weston jogged over and asked me, with some embarrassment, whether Siren was seeing anyone. She had turned him down rather unkindly. That's very unlike her, I said. Ajax was watching me process this. Sam also got turned down yesterday, he said. She just likes to keep people guessing, I tried. Perhaps, he said. But his tone said, perhaps not. Let's spar, he said suddenly. What? He walked to a mat and faced me. I need to see what you can do. And you look like you need to hit something. I probably did. I rolled out my shoulders, walked to the opposite end of the mat, and raised my fists. You're holding back, I said. And you're not, he replied, amused. Good. He deserved a few good hits. Chapter 21. November 14th. It's your turn. Wait, I thought I just rolled. Sam, it is absolutely your turn, Cipher said, shaking the dice anyway. Ajax sat on the couch with a book he was allegedly reading, occasionally commenting that Monopoly was a children's game. We ignored him. Octavia, truth or dare? Ajax said from behind his book. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. He had picked me completely unprepared. Actually, he said without missing a beat, Sam. Truth or dare? Samuel sat up. Dare. When Siren returns, show her your best dramatic dance move. Samuel looked mortified. I burst out laughing. Cipher snorted and knocked Ajax's book out of his hands. It landed on the floor with a thud. Cipher fled the room before Ajax could react. Samuel scrambled after her, leaving Ajax and me alone with a Monopoly board, scattered money, and his fallen book. I picked it up off the floor. Thank you, he said. Truth or dare? I said, still holding his book. He stood and crossed toward me. I took an instinctive step back. He stopped an arm's length away and caught my wrist, gently pulling me toward him. Truth, he said. Why did you kiss me? I asked immediately. He looked at me steadily. Are you afraid I'll do it again? No. His hands moved from my wrist to my waist. One traveled up my back, the other stayed at my hip. His thumb grazed the mark. I shivered. Good, he said quietly, and placed a slow kiss on my forehead. He lingered for a second, then stepped back. He walked upstairs without another word. I stood there holding his book. My wolf was howling, and I was doing my best to remain a reasonable person. Siren and Samuel came back a short while later. She was leaning on him, looking pale. I think I have a stomach bug, she said. I moved her to the couch and covered her with a blanket. She asked, with drooping eyes, if I could find an herbal plant that grew just outside and put it in her tea. I frowned at this but nodded. Samuel and I went outside to search. I've never noticed any herb growing near the house, he said. Neither have I agreed. We searched the grass and found nothing unusual. I was about to go back inside when a twig snapped in the trees behind me. Samuel was at my side instantly. A low rumble began, growing louder. The ground trembled. Birds scattered from the trees in a mass. And then, crashing through the brush, a herd of deer and elk, charging directly toward us. Sam. I grabbed his shirt and yanked. We ran. His eyes went blank for a few seconds, mind-link, then he gripped my wrist and pulled me faster. We dove behind a large boulder. He curled over me as the herd thundered past, hooves sending stones and frozen earth in every direction. The herd swept through and kept going. Then Ajax was there, lifting me from the ground, pressing me to his chest. His heart was pounding nearly as fast as mine. I'm fine, I said, pressing my hands flat against him. He held on for another moment before releasing me. Ajax. Look. Sam was pointing into the settling dust. 7 deer had remained in the clearing. They stood calm, as if nothing had happened. But they were not just deer. On their sides, letters drawn in dark red. 7 letters. 1 per animal. Octavia. My name. Ajax went rigid. The calm in his expression cracked and something ancient and dangerous moved across his face. Sam, he said quietly. Get Weston. Secure the border. No entry or exit without my personal authorization. Yes, Alpha. Ajax put his hand on my back and guided me inside without another word. I did not protest. I ran to the living room. Siren was gone. Ajax. I stood very still in the empty room. She's gone. He appeared in the doorway, jaw tight. I'll send out search teams, he said. He looked at me once, directly. Come here. I crossed the room. He held my face in both his hands and met my eyes. I am going to fix this. This is my fault, not yours. And I am going to protect you. Do you believe me? I looked at him for a long moment. His ocean blue eyes, perfectly steady. Yes, I said. He pressed his forehead to mine. Outside the window, the first pale light of evening was turning the world gray. Winter was coming. And with it, everything we had been afraid of. Chapter 22. November 15th. I had killed him at 15. My wolf had come early. Not in the spring, as was expected, but on a frozen November night when the anger had built past any wall I could hold. My father had been sitting across from me in the back seat of a car, calm as always, telling me what Jarjan liked and didn't like in children, and something in me had simply broken. I did not let myself think about that night often. It served nothing. But here in the kitchen, glass of whiskey untouched beside me, all I could think about was my past and Octavia's future. The door opened. Her scent reached me before she appeared on the stairs, pulling up short when she saw me. I thought you wouldn't be home, she said. How long are you going to avoid me? I'm not avoiding you, she said, not very convincingly. I watched her come down. Chocolate brown hair loose around her shoulders, green eyes guarded but present. She was wearing something casual, and she looked warm and unreasonably beautiful, and I had no idea what to do with that. Come talk to me, I said. I just got back from a meeting. I'll tell you about the border updates. She came down fully and stood in front of me. She was close enough that I had to concentrate to keep my hands in my pockets. Sam personally checked the full perimeter. The west border requires reinforcement. Additional guard rotations are going into effect. Don't be alarmed by unfamiliar faces in the halls. You think he'll come from the west? We're not certain. He may come from the east and work his way through until he reaches you. The worry moved through her clearly, even though she tried to hold it still. I reached for her face without thinking the same thing I always did when she was like this. Don't. We have time. We are preparing. She nodded under my hands. I kissed the top of her head and stepped back. Pack training in 30 minutes. Sure, she said, but she was still looking at me. She knocked on my door. I thought we could walk together, she said from the doorway. Of course. We walked side by side. The silence was not uncomfortable. It had stopped being uncomfortable a while ago, and I had not named the moment it changed. She told me she missed her family. I told her I understood in the abstract. I had Alexander and Christina and Cipher, and they were good people, but they were not mine the way her family was hers. Her family was her whole world, and I had taken her away from it. I had been doing that math for weeks. What it would cost her, and what I could do about it. At the gym, I stood her on a mat and watched her work. She was exceptional, precise, controlled, with more speed than her size suggested and more power than most expected. When she sparred, she did not hold anything back. I understood why. She'd had very little she was allowed to keep. She was going to hold on to every piece of her own capability. I watched her and thought about Jalex and what he had written on those deer. Her name, in blood. I would tear him to pieces for that alone. Chapter 23. November 19th. We've extended the search party long enough, I said, cutting off Weston's suggestion to keep looking. She is not lost. She left. The room was quiet. Samuel stared at the table. Weston shifted. Moving on, border integrity is holding. Rotations are solid. I looked at Weston. Training, motivated, ready, good. I tapped the table. One more item. Octavia's birthday is in 1 week. I intend to hold a party for her. Cipher made it sound like she might lift off the ground. Yes, I said. I need you and Christina to make sure she actually wants to attend. She doesn't seem to want to celebrate, and I would rather have her genuinely present than going through the motions. I will handle it, Cipher said, already writing. There is one other matter. I set my hands flat on the table. A surprise. I want to invite her family. Samuel appeared to pinch himself. She misses them, I said plainly. She doesn't ask because she expects me to refuse. I'm not refusing. This is my fault, and I want to give her something real. A short silence. Then Alexander nodded. I'll help you make the call, he said. We went to his office. He dialed. I stood by the window and waited. Octavius, it's Alexander, he said, and then passed the phone to me. The voice on the other end was immediately sharp. If you've called to tell me my daughter is dead. She is not dead, I said. You took her without asking. You turned me away when I needed help. My voice was low, not loud. You knew what was happening to me and you chose to do nothing. Remember that before you lecture me about what I owe. A long pause. Her birthday is in 1 week, I said. I am extending an invitation for you and your family. My men will escort you to a neutral meeting point. You will stay the night. She will not know you are coming. What's the catch? There is no catch. She loves you and she has not said goodbye properly. I am giving her that. Another pause. Fine, he said. Be ready for my call on the day. I hung up before he could add anything else. I sat down in Alexander's chair and rubbed my eyes. She will be pleased, Alexander said. She deserves more than what I've given her, I said. That was all. I walked home through the autumn afternoon. She was in the theater room watching something and yelling at the television about a character named Dean. Have you eaten? I asked from the doorway. She startled, paused her show, and shook her head. Octavia, you need to eat, I said, more quietly than I intended. Frustration, but not at her. She flinched slightly when I punched the wall beside the door. I left and went upstairs and sat on the edge of my bed in the quiet. This was my fault. All of it. The fear in her eyes when she didn't expect it. The way she was disappearing into the house by herself. I had done this to her. I needed to do better. Starting now. Chapter 24. November 21st. I closed the book I had chosen at random from Ajax's office shelf. It was dense and philosophical, and I had read the same paragraph 4 times. I replaced it neatly and spun slowly in his desk chair. I had come to apologize. I had slipped in while he was gone, told myself I would simply wait, then spent 45 minutes reading nothing while eating all my cookies. The hall was still empty. I moved to his bedroom door and knocked. Nothing. Tried again. Nothing. Opened it. Empty. I wandered into his bathroom. Marble and gold. A large bathtub that looked as though it had never been used. I turned the tap on to check. Warm. I looked around. He was not home. The bathtub was waiting. I added body wash until reasonable bubbles formed, stripped off my clothes, and sank in. The warmth was extraordinary. I closed my eyes. For the first time in weeks, I felt my whole body unclench at once. 2 hours apparently passed. I only realized when I noticed my fingers looked like raisins and the water had gone cold. What the hell is wrong with you? You can't just disappear and not tell anyone. Ajax's voice came through the walls, distant but closing. I stood quickly, grabbed the towel, and wrapped it around myself just as the bathroom door swung open. I was here for 2 hours, apparently, I said. I lost track of time. I was looking for you first. In my bathtub? I found it on the way. He stood in the doorway, a towel in hand. He had clearly been running, still wearing workout clothes, slightly out of breath. Hold still, he said, and wrapped the towel around me himself. As he tucked it in, his hands lingered for just a moment. Then, everyone in the house was looking for you. The guard said you'd been up here for 2 hours. I am sorry. I was looking for you, and then one thing led to another. In the bathtub. It's a very impressive bathtub. His jaw moved. Not quite a laugh. Get dressed. You need to eat something. Can I borrow clothes? No. Then I will walk to my room in this towel and say hello to all the guards in the hallway. He closed his eyes briefly. Don't threaten me. That is not a threat. That is a sincere plan. He disappeared into the closet and came back with jogging pants and a hoodie. He threw them at me. I caught one. The other hit the floor. Noted, I said. He was in the sitting room when I came out, perched on the couch, watching me from the corner of his eye. I sat down a fair distance from him with my legs folded under me. I wanted to apologize, I said. You don't have to. You know that Siren meant a great deal to me. And losing her again has made everything harder than I was prepared for. I know, he said, and his voice carried the weight of someone who actually understood. Is it true she was helping Ajax? He picked up his remote and handed it to me. It looks that way. Alexander spoke to her family. She left voluntarily. She packed and left and did not tell them where she was going. I sat with that. Siren, who adored her family. Who would never leave without a reason that mattered intensely to her. Someone in the pack must have helped her get out, I said. Yes, we're looking into it. He took back the remote, and we sat in a strange, almost easy silence. He found a show I had never heard of. I did not fight him for the remote. The lights outside had shifted to evening gold, and somewhere down the hall Siren's absence felt very present. She told you, I said quietly. About Cipher and your parents. There's something else, isn't there? He looked at me. You should ask him, Cipher had said. Ajax, I said. Is there more that you haven't told me? He looked at the television for a long moment. Yes, he said. I waited. But not tonight. I nodded. He would tell me when he was ready. I would wait. I pulled the hood of his sweater over my head and watched his show and thought about how much of his past was still locked behind eyes that had learned to show nothing. And how slowly, day by day, the locks were loosening. Chapter 25. November 26th. You shouldn't be walking near the border, Ajax said, tugging off his tie. He had just come in from a meeting and was already moving toward the closet. I just want to walk. The territory patrol is already out there. Take a guard. A warning would be nice, I said, turning away as he began changing. "You either take a guard or I come with you." I picked a guard from the hallway, Marcus, quiet, professional, and someone Ajax had clearly already mind-linked before I even reached him. We entered the tree line. Marcus kept a respectful distance. The wind was sharp and persistent, lifting dead leaves and carrying the deep green smell of the forest. "Do you smell that?" Marcus said behind me. I raised my face and tested the air. Something foul. Not right. One of the border wolves broke formation, nose to the air, and led us toward a large tree trunk. He stopped and made a small sound of distaste. Vomit. A pile of it near the roots. Marcus sent a younger wolf to clean it up. Then he crouched, found a stick, and began carefully moving the waste aside. Beneath it, the ground had been freshly turned. "Someone was digging here," he said quietly. The young wolf returned with cleaning supplies. While they worked, I leaned against a nearby tree and waited. "Dig in the same spot," Marcus instructed. The young wolf cleared the area, then slowed. He reached into the disturbed earth and pulled out a pale pink blouse, a blanket, a few articles of clothing. I smelled them before I thought about it. Home. The scent of snowmoon. And underneath that, unmistakably, her. "Siren," I said. Marcus's eyes went dull. Mind-link. Ajax was on his way. I sat down near the base of the tree and looked at the pile of her clothing. She had shifted here. Left her clothes beneath her own vomit to make them undetectable. Someone had helped her cross the border. And she had gone to Ajax. Ajax arrived at a jog, still shirtless from the training he had apparently been interrupted from. He crouched over the items, then stood. "Cover the hole," he said to Marcus. "Make it look untouched. If she comes back to check, she will think we didn't find it." How would she return with the border secured as it is? "The same way she left," Ajax said. "With help from the inside." Marcus went rigid. Ajax did not explain further. He came to stand beside me and said, "No more walks. If you need air, open a window. Let's go." I didn't argue. I stood and followed him back toward the mansion, the autumn light going gold around us. He locked the front door when we came in. "Ducky," he said, and I turned to find him standing closer than I had expected. He put both hands on my face, his thumbs brushing my cheekbones. "I'm sorry. This is my fault, and I will fix it. Whatever it takes." I reached up and covered his hands with mine. His warmth. The steadiness of him. "You're warm," I whispered. "I am always warm." "Yes, yes, yes," I said, laughing quietly. He tried to suppress his smile and nearly managed it. "Come on," he said. "Let's rest before dinner." Upstairs, I immediately reached for the television remote. He raised an eyebrow. "I get to pick," I said, already turning to a show I liked. "Who decided that?" "Me, just now." "Fight me for it." That was how we ended up wrestling for the television remote across his bedroom, knocking over 2 pillows and 1 lamp that was fortunately fine, before he tackled me onto the bed and pinned me easily, laughing. "You lose," he said from above me, amused. "The game is paused," I said. He looked down at me with ocean blue eyes, laughter fading into something quieter. He kissed my nose, then my cheek. Then he found the mark on my neck and his lips rested there, warm and slow, until my breath came short and something close to a sound escaped me that I instantly regretted. I scrambled sideways and off the bed. "I am going to shower," I announced loudly. He was still in the same position, watching me with dark, warm eyes and the trace of a smile. "Of course," he said. I escaped into the bathroom, closed the door, leaned against it. Tomorrow was my birthday. And I had absolutely no idea what was coming. Chapter 26. November 27th. My birthday. It did not feel like one. The house was quiet. No tower of pancakes, no decorations being wrestled onto walls, no Odin sneaking up behind me to announce birthday punches. I performed my morning routine, grabbed a breakfast bar from the kitchen, and walked to the children's school. The moment I stepped through the door, the room went still. "Children, what do we say to the Luna on her special day?" The instructor asked. Chorus, "Happy birthday, Luna." And then Lola came careening toward me on her short legs and launched herself into my arms. "Luna, Happy birthday. I made this. She pressed a hot pink piece of paper into my hands, her careful crayon handwriting, a drawing I believed included a dog, a house, and a girl. It's beautiful, I told her, kissing the crown of her head. She settled into my lap and demanded the lost puppy story. I read it 3 times before the morning lessons pulled the children away. At the end, Lola made her feelings about my departure known by crossing her arms and puffing her cheeks. I will be back soon, I promised. Outside, the day was gray and peaceful. I wandered the territory slowly, not ready to go inside. The pack house was off limits. Christina had forbidden it, something about decorations. Fine. I circled around the outside of the building like a very poor spy, tucked myself into the shadow of the wall, and watched Ajax give instructions to a guard and drive away in a convoy of SUVs. He was up to something. Something he didn't want me to see. I waited until he disappeared around the corner before giving up and going back to the mansion. The afternoon was quiet. I changed into something nice, though Cipher had not yet arrived with the inevitable dress situation. I sat in my room and tried not to let myself feel too sad about my family, which was not working. Then Cipher burst through the door. We tried on dresses for an hour. She rejected the white one in favor of a deep burgundy number that was fitted and low enough to make me self-conscious. She said I looked incredible. I tried to argue. She physically took the white dress away. The boots she pulled out were thigh-high and added 5 inches to my height. I looked in the mirror and felt genuinely beautiful. Cipher kissed my cheek, warned me in a cryptic way to have waterproof mascara, and left. I found my only waterproof mascara and applied it. Octavia. Ajax called from downstairs. I put in one earring. The other went in my hand. I went down the stairs still working on it. And stopped. 5 people stood in the foyer. 3 sets of green eyes. 2 sets of brown. They turned to look at me and the world stopped making any sound. Daddy. I don't know how I reached him. I was just there, pressed against him, sobbing into his shoulder the way I had when I was 5 and scraped my knee on the practice track. His arms came around me. Give me my girl, my mother said through her own tears. I let go of my father and crashed into her. I thought I was your baby, Odessa said. I pulled her in. Odin crowded in behind her. Orion got me in a headlock disguised as a hug. My family, all of them, in one impossible room in the middle of Ajax's house. At some point I realized Ajax had gone. I searched for him with my hearing and found him upstairs, giving us space. We talked for a long time. My brothers questioned me about Ajax until I cut them off. My mother, with absolutely no shame, asked why the mating process hadn't been completed. My siblings made horrified sounds. I covered my face, not answering that. Eventually Ajax reappeared, and I could not stop the smile when I saw him. The pack is ready, he said simply. He looked at my father briefly. My father looked back. Something passed between them that was not warm but was not hostile either. We should go, Ajax said. He crossed to me and took my hand. Something in my chest went perfectly still. I have that earring you dropped, he said, pulling the small piece of jewelry from his pocket. You watched me fall down the stairs? You were moving very quickly. I let him help me put in the earring, and when it was done he pulled me close and kissed me briefly. Like it was natural. Like it had always been. This must have been difficult for you, I said quietly. It is my fault you haven't seen them. So don't thank me. Another brief kiss to my lips. Come on. Your pack is waiting. We went outside together. Chapter 27. November 27th. The inside of the pack house was transformed. White roses on layered cakes, food covering every surface, the backyard full of music and voices. Over 500 people, and somehow most of them found me in the first 20 minutes. Ajax stayed beside me, guiding me through introductions, saying the right things. When a large guard came to whisper something in his ear, Ajax stepped away just briefly, and I felt the absence of his warmth, like something physical. Happy birthday, Octavia. I turned. Cynthia smiled at me, her new bob cut framing her face, her skin warm from a recent trip. We embraced and she asked about my hair and I asked about her travels. Alexander appeared next, wrapping me in a hug and saying something kind about light. Then Ajax was back, his hand at my waist. I didn't think about it. It was just where it belonged. Cynthia mentioned she had returned from her trip on the 14th. Ajax's hand tightened slightly. I glanced at him. His jaw was just barely set. My father appeared. Alexander and my father greeted each other with the ease of old friends. Something moved through Ajax's expression at the sight. You know each other? I asked Alexander. Good friends years ago. Before his brother died. His brother. I looked at Ajax. He was watching my father steadily, waiting for something. Yes, his brother, Ajax said, just loud enough. The one you were also quite friendly with. Before everything. Ajax, this isn't the time, Alexander said. My father looked at me with his best reassuring smile. I recognized it. It was the smile he used when he did not want me to ask questions. I had always hated that smile. Excuse us, I said pleasantly and grabbed Ajax's wrist. I pulled him to the front steps. We sat. You could have told me our fathers knew each other, I said. What difference would it have made? You treat me like I'm made of glass. His jaw flexed. You have figured most of it out already, haven't you? I think so. I kept my voice even. There are only so many reasons a child would kill a parent. Ambition. Desperation. Protection from harm. I paused. You were not old enough for the title because Alexander stepped in. And you have never once spoken about your childhood without anger. His expression changed. Not to anger. Something older and rawer than that. You're not wrong, he said. I reached out and took his hand. Carefully. The way you pick up something fragile and important. You don't have to tell me everything tonight. You don't have to tell me all at once. My father was openly abusive, he said. His voice was quiet and very even. He didn't care who was watching. In cars. In meeting rooms. In front of pack members. In front of your father. Did my father step in? No. No one did. My father terrified everyone around him, and my mother was too consumed by her feelings for him to see me at all. He looked at the garden. He started taking me on trips when I was 8. Always the same pack. Always the same alpha. My hand tightened around his. He brought me there so the alpha could abuse me as well. The words arrived in my chest like something breaking. I said nothing. There was nothing adequate to say. I pressed my face into his shoulder, and he exhaled slowly. I'm sorry, I managed. I am so sorry. Don't apologize for things that aren't yours, he said. His arm moved around me. He pressed a kiss to the top of my head. His eyes went distant. Someone was mind-linking him. He surfaced quickly. Siren has crossed the border, he said. She's moving toward where she left her clothes. He stood and was already removing his jacket. I'm going after her. Ajax. He was running, shifting, a black wolf disappearing into the dark. Samuel and Marcus appeared at the door. Luna, come inside. Alpha's orders. I looked at my boots, then at the direction Ajax had gone. I handed Marcus my heels and ran. Through the trees, following the sound and the scent, I arrived to find them circling each other, Ajax's black wolf and a lighter one I did not immediately recognize. Shift, I said firmly. I threw Ajax's shirt toward the lighter wolf and his pants toward him. They both stopped. Looked at me. Now. They shifted. Siren grabbed the shirt and covered herself. She looked at me with something that was neither guilt nor innocence. I came back for you, she said. Don't, I said. Octavia, I escaped from. She said don't, Ajax said flatly. Tell us who helped you get in and out of the territory, I said. She laughed. It was not the laugh I remembered. You can't touch me, she said. Ajax has men waiting just outside the border. If anything happens to me, they make a call. Ajax stepped forward. I raised a hand and he stopped. Then you had better listen carefully, I said. If you set foot on this land again, you will not leave it alive. And whoever you have waiting outside our border will not find a welcome here. She smiled at me with eyes I did not recognize. Ajax is going to enjoy you. Ajax moved before I could stop him. The sound was loud and immediate. Siren stumbled back, hand to her face, blood at her lip. I am counting from 5, Ajax said quietly, crouching in front of her. "If you are not moving when I finish, I will finish this." She scrambled to her feet and ran. The forest swallowed her. Ajax straightened. He turned to me. His face was composed again, but his eyes were still very dark. I walked to him and did what I had done on the steps. I took his hand. He looked down at our joined hands for a moment. "Let's go home," he said. Behind us the trees were quiet. Ahead of us the lights of the pack glowed warm and real. We walked back together. Chapter 28. December 1st. The weather forecast said light snow tomorrow morning. I turned the television off and sat with the blanket pulled around my shoulders. My anxiety built immediately, quietly. December meant snow. Snow meant Ajax. My family had left 2 days ago. We had told them everything. My father had gone rigid when Ajax spoke about Ajax, some recognition moving behind his eyes. He had insisted he would come back before the first snow and try to reason with the man. I was not sure that was a good plan. My father was stubborn enough to do it anyway. "You could just move into my room," Ajax said, stepping out of the bathroom, towel around his waist. He was, I had learned, entirely comfortable being half-dressed in my presence, and I was learning, very slowly, to manage it. "I am here for the television," I said. "Of course you are." He crossed to the closet. He reappeared in simple clothes and dropped onto the couch beside me. "I'm calling a last training session with the Warriors before the snow hits. I want to see where we stand. The news said the first snow might not even stick. I prefer to be prepared," he said, lacing his shoes. He was right too. I knew he was right. I watched him from the corner of my eye and thought about how much had changed. Months ago, I had slept in his truck praying to slip into a coma rather than face the life ahead of me. Now I was sitting on his couch drinking his bad coffee and genuinely hoping he would come back soon. "You should come," he said. "When will you be back?" "Soon." "How soon?" I asked and immediately regretted it. He turned to look at me. "Is that clingy behavior I'm detecting?" "No. You are very attached to me." "I am not." He was laughing at me with his eyes, just slightly, which was genuinely worse than the regular kind. "We can hang out when I get back," he said. He bent down and kissed my forehead on his way out. I pressed my fingertips to the spot. Outside the window, the wind was growing. A few trees at the edge of the forest swayed and some guards clustered to discuss the most efficient way to move a fallen branch. I watched them and thought about how it had all started with a night I had not even wanted to attend. A party for my sister. A crash and a run. A man who had taken me by force and become, impossibly, someone I was beginning to trust. The snow had not yet fallen, but I could feel it coming the way you feel a storm before it arrives. A pressure change, a stillness, a held breath in the air. Cipher arrived and we made breakfast, enormous and indulgent and companionable. I snuck Oreos while she wasn't looking. She knew exactly what I was doing. She chose not to say anything, which I took as a sign of genuine affection. We talked about ordinary things. It was a gift. By noon the wind had picked up dramatically. Cipher left with her coat pulled tight. Sam left with her. Ajax appeared in the doorway. "Come inside. It's too cold." He extended his hand. I took it. We went upstairs together, and I won the television remote by claiming I had already selected something, which was technically true. He sat beside me without argument, which either meant he was tired or had decided to let me have this one. The snow had not come yet, but it was waiting. Tomorrow it would arrive. Tonight, we sat together in the warm and pretended, for a few hours, that none of the rest of it was real. Chapter 29. December 2nd. He had told me everything. Not everything at once. Not all in one night. But last night he had opened a door I had not expected him to open, and the thing on the other side was so terrible and so old and so unfair that I had not been able to stop crying. He had held me all night. He had comforted me, the person who was crying for him. I woke still tangled in his arms, still in his bed, the white flakes outside the window arriving exactly as promised. He was already awake, watching me with those ocean blue eyes that had stopped being cold somewhere along the way. "Good morning," I whispered. He pushed a strand of hair behind my ear. "How did you sleep?" I should be asking you that. You were the one who cried, he said, not unkindly. I slept well, I said. No dreams. You. Better than usual, he said. Because you were here. My stomach turned over quietly. He pulled me closer, his fingers moving through my hair. I adore you, Octavia. My own name, said like that, felt like sunlight. My stomach growled loudly. I covered it with my hand. He laughed, the real one, the free one, and began to get up. Stay, I said, reaching out. Octavia, it's snowing. I know. There's a great deal to do today. I know, I said again, quieter. He looked at me. The snow continued outside, soft and inevitable. I'll be quick, he said. He kissed my lips briefly, then my forehead. Then he went to the bathroom, and I listened to the sound of the shower and the world outside getting whiter. He came out already half-dressed and moving efficiently. He told me the plan in calm, measured sentences. Non-essential pack members moved to the bunker, warriors gathering, boarders on alert. Everything organized, everything prepared. I was to stay visible in the house with guards. I want to fight alongside my pack, I said. I know you do, he said. And if we need you, I will send for you. But your first priority is staying safe. Ajax. Ducky. He came to the bed and held my face in his hands. Promise me you'll stay here until I come to get you. I searched his face. The thing living behind his eyes right now was not composure, it was barely contained fear. For me. After everything, after all of it, he was afraid of losing me. I promise, I said. He exhaled. He pressed his forehead to mine. You have more goodness in you than anyone I've ever known, he said. I would not trade a day with you. Not the arguments, not the fear, not any of it. You have changed me in ways I did not know I could change. My lip was trembling. I haven't decided if that's a compliment, I said. It is the highest one I know how to give. He kissed me. Slow and certain and unhurried, as if the world was not about to arrive at our border, and then he said, I'll see you when this is done. I'll come back for you. You had better, I said. He almost smiled. Then he stood and left. I sat in his bed with the snow falling outside and pressed my hands flat against the place where he had been lying. Still warm. I would be here when he came back. I would make sure of it. Chapter 30. December 2nd. 3 more intervals before the bunker is full, Cipher said, checking her list. Good. When you're done, go help set up the medical camp with the pack doctors. I want it fully operational before this begins. Done, she said. The warriors filled the gym. Hundreds of them. They stood quietly, waiting. My pack. Men and women who had known nothing but this territory, these streets, these families. And who would step onto a battlefield today because I had made a choice years ago that had consequences, and because Octavia was here, and because they had accepted her as their Luna. I spread the territory map on the table. Samuel and Weston flanked me. The gym doors opened. Marcus. He moved through the room and stopped a few feet away, bowed and said, Alpha. I have bad news. The room went still. 200 warriors and not a single breath. The guards posted inside the house were attacked and killed, Marcus said. There is no sign of Cynthia. There is no sign of Luna Octavia. The world stopped. I did not let myself breathe. The map. The wall. The faces around me. None of it was real. My wolf broke through. I flipped the table. I hit the wall. The plaster cracked. The room moved back. Where, I said, and my voice did not sound like mine. One survivor. Currently being questioned. Our best tracker is already out. Take me to the survivor. We moved. I ran. The med camp appeared ahead of us, and from inside came a sound I had not heard in years from Cipher. Pure, unfiltered rage. I pushed through the curtains. She was in the hallway, a broken clipboard in her hands, shaking. Her eyes were almost black. You left her, she said. You left our Luna with that woman, and I trusted you and you. She hit my chest with her fists. I let her. Then I pulled her into a separate room with Samuel. Cipher. My voice was flat. Hard. Tell me what you know right now. Cynthia, she said. It was Cynthia all along. She was the one who helped Siren in and out of the territory. She helped Jalex get his people in today. Samuel kicked over a chair. Cynthia, who had been here since August, who had traveled over the summer and come back on the 14th, the same day Siren's things had been buried near the border. Samuel, take Marcus. Find every trace of Cynthia's movements over the last 3 months. Every contact. Every movement. Now, he was already moving. Weston. I found him in the hall. Select your best. Complete the battle formations. We move when I give the order. Yes, Alpha. I walked back to the gym and stood in the center of my warriors. Jalex Cove has taken our Luna, I said. He will return her now. And every man who stands between her and me will regret having come here. No one spoke. Get ready. Octavia. My head ached. I could not remember exactly how I had gotten here, only a sequence of sensations. Nausea, cold water, a hand closing over my mouth, the smell of alcohol poured over my clothes to mask my scent, the burn of silver against my wrists. I was underground. A stone room with one barred window too high to reach. Chains anchored to the wall. Cool air seeping in. I had tried the chains 20 times. The silver burned through my palms and drained my strength. My wolf was dimmed to a quiet frustration rather than the force she usually was. I had seen him once. Jalex. He looked like Ajax and unlike him at the same time. Same dark hair, same blue eyes, but where Ajax's eyes had learned to carry warmth beneath the cold, Jalex's were simply empty. Cynthia came and went. She seemed to find the whole situation amusing in a way that I found genuinely baffling. She had been my friend. She had sat with me in my room and eaten lunch with me and met my family. And she had been planning this the entire time. I did not waste energy hating her. I saved it. When they came down to question me about Ajax's battle plans, I told them the truth. I did not know specifics. Ajax kept me informed enough to be Luna, not enough to be a strategic liability if captured. Siren was here too. She had been taken away by the burly man they called Ted after Jalex expressed displeasure with her. I did not know where she was. I did not know what had been done. I breathed carefully and thought about Ajax's voice this morning. I adore you. I would hold on to that. The door eventually opened. Footsteps. Jalex descended, measured and unhurried. Tell me, he said, crouching in front of me. Why haven't you and Ajax completed the mating process? That is not your business. It matters because you're in heat, Cynthia said from the top of the stairs, rolling her eyes. I went very still. The cold water has been keeping your temperature manageable, Jalex said. A she-wolf's first heat can become dangerous without, he paused, completion. I felt the warmth in my body that I had been attributing to stress and injury suddenly make more sense. The ache. The heightened awareness every time Ajax was near. Is he afraid of me? Jalex asked, almost gently. You should be afraid of him, I said. He smiled. He killed my father, yes. He killed his own as well. Which means we have more in common than he would like to admit. His eyes were cold and patient. Tell me his plan and I will keep you comfortable. I don't know his plan. Then we wait. He stood. He'll come for you. They always do. He left. I leaned my head back against the stone wall and closed my eyes. Come soon, I thought, in the direction of the surface and the snow and the mate bond that still hummed between us like a low current. Please come soon. Chapter 31. December 2nd. The pulsing of blood in my head. That was the first thing. Snow under my fingers. I was outside. I was on the ground at the edge of the clearing, and above me was a sky full of white, and around me were hundreds of wolves in two opposing formations. Mine and his. Tell me, Jalex said, somewhere above me. What do you think his face will do when he sees her? Unpredictable, Ted replied. Yes, that is the point. A cloth bag came off my head. I forced my eyes open against the winter glare. My face was swollen. My wrists still burned from the chains. I had done some damage to Ted before I lost consciousness. I did not regret that. Sniff him out, Jalex said. Tell me if he's close. I inhaled. Blood, snow, cold pine, mud, and beneath it all, mint and something warmer. Recent. He had been here. He's coming, I said. Good. Jalex signaled to his wolves and they moved into position. He kept me in front of him as a shield. They were outnumbered. I could see it. The Crescent Blood Pack had been preparing for weeks and they had prepared well. Weston had done his work. The Black Wolf appeared from the tree line. Ajax. He was unharmed. His midnight coat was dark against the snow and his eyes, when he found me, went from deep blue to absolute black in seconds. Cipher grabbed his haunches. Samuel moved to his other side. He shifted with his eyes still on me. You should have taken better care of your mate, Jalex said, behind me. Hand her to me, Ajax said. His voice was completely quiet. That was more frightening than any volume would have been. When you wait too long, Jalex said to the clearing, loud enough for everyone, a she-wolf goes into heat. Did you know your mate is in heat right now? Standing here, suffering, because you couldn't bring yourself to. Ajax was moving. Jalex grabbed me, wrapped an arm around my neck. Come any closer and she dies. Ajax stopped. His eyes found mine over Jalex's arm, and all of the rage and fear and love that he had spent months learning to conceal were completely visible. I looked back at him and thought, not yet. I can smell the heat coming off her, Jalex said, his lips near my ear. It's like a signal, inviting anyone willing to answer it. Ajax's eyes turned red. And then Jalex did something no one anticipated. He bit me. Not Ajax's mark. The other side. A sloppy, brutal bite, forced and fast, with no tenderness and no bond and nothing except violence. I screamed. The sound that came from Ajax shook the trees. It was not a word or a name. It was the sound of a man breaking. Jalex dropped me. The snow rushed up. Pain moved through my whole body from the new mark, wrong and burning, fighting against the one that was mine. Ajax was running at full speed. The battle erupted around me. I could not move. The competing marks were doing something terrible to my system. I could feel them fighting each other. Two claims on the same life. The snow was cold against my cheek. I heard Cipher's wolf tear through something to my right. I heard Samuel's low, decisive battle cry. I heard my mate, somewhere in the chaos, beyond the fire in my blood, fighting his way toward me. I was forcefully marked. Again. The Alpha's daughter, the Luna, the girl who had run on courthouse steps in resoled boots and refused to stop, and I pressed my palm flat against the snow and pushed. Chapter 32. December 12th. 10 days. I sat in the chair beside her bed and rubbed my eyes and looked at her again, the way I had every hour for 10 days. Her chest rose and fell at an uneven pace. Her skin was paler than usual. A bandage covered the right side of her neck, over the mark that should not exist, fighting silently against the one that did. 3 times they had brought her back. The pack doctors had never encountered anything like it. 2 competing marks on the same she-wolf. Cipher had been searching non-stop through every record and archive she could locate. The healers were doing what healers could. And I sat here. I had found Jalex after the battle. He was alive. He had fled when he saw the tide turn, taking what remained of his forces with him. He was alive, and I had not yet been able to reach him, and then not yet sat on my chest like a stone. I had not eaten properly in days. I knew this because Cipher kept leaving food outside the door and it kept disappearing because I had asked a guard to take it away. I reached out and took her hand. Her skin was soft and still warm. That was the only thing that kept me from losing my mind entirely. Still warm. Still here. I pressed my lips to the back of her hand and closed my eyes. She had pushed up from the snow. They had all seen it. Even with 2 competing marks tearing at her system, even with the silver still in her blood, she had pushed herself up. She had crawled to a fighting position. She had refused to stop. That was who she was. That had always been who she was. I had seen it on a courthouse step in October, in a crowd of people she had never met, giving a printed judgment to a skeptical stranger because he deserved the primary source. I had seen it every day since and not named it, not let myself name it, until there was nothing left to hold back. I loved her. The realization was not a surprise. It had been arriving for weeks, slowly and inevitably, The way the first snow arrived, you knew it was coming long before it fell. I loved her and she was going to wake up. I would make sure of it. I would give Cipher whatever resources she needed. I would bring in healers from every pack that would send one. I would remove Jalex's mark if I had to search every century-old text ever written to learn how. And when she opened her eyes, when she turned those impossible green eyes on me and said something cutting and honest and entirely herself, I was going to tell her. All of it. Her chest rose. Fell. Rose again. I kept my hand around hers and waited.